Ladies and gentlemen, good morning to you all. We are almost there. I think 99% of us are online. We're just emailing another councillor who will hopefully be able to join us within the next 2 to 3 minutes. So again, sincere thank you to you for your patience, and hopefully we'll be able to start the meeting now by 1:15. So again, thank you and apologies for the delay. Iawn, bore da pawb, croeso mawr i chi gyd yma heno heddiw bore am Llandrindod. A warm welcome to you all this morning in opening the meeting of this Planning, Taxi Licensing and Rights of Way Committee. I'd like to say how encouraging it is to see so many in the chamber this morning, both members of the public and indeed members of the Planning Committee. There are a number of people joining online. Warm welcome to those as well. We have, as you can see, a large agenda before us this morning, and we will do our best to work through it. So we will start, please, Carol. Item number 1, apologies and roll call. Os gwelwch yn dda.
Thank you, Chair. So, Councillor Gareth D. Jones.
Yma.
Councillor Adrian Jones.
Present.
Councillor Tom Colbert.
Present.
Councillor Angela Davis sent apologies. Councillor Deb Edwards.
Present.
Councillor Claire Hall sent apologies. Councillor Peter James.
Present.
Councillor Ed Jones.
Present.
Councillor Gareth E. Jones.
Present.
Councillor Karina Kenyon Wade. Councillor Carl Lewis.
Present.
Councillor Jeff Morgan.
Present.
Councillor Gareth Pugh,
Present.
Councillor Edwin Roderick. Not at the moment. Councillor Elwyn Vaughan,
Yma.
Councillor Jonathan Wilkinson,
Present.
Councillor Hugh Williams.
Yma.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, councillor Peter. Thank you, Carol. Item 2, minutes of the previous meeting. To authorise the chair to sign the minutes of the previous meeting of the committee held on the 19th of September 2024. I'm looking for a proposer and a seconder for accuracy. Thank you, councillor Jonathan. Thank you, councillor Hugh. Item number 3, declarations of interest. A, to receive any declarations of interest from members relating to items to be considered on the agenda. I would like to declare an interest under application 4.2, 24/0820/FUL. I will vacate the chair seat and councillor Adrian, our vice chair, will take over for that application. Are there any further declarations of interest? No. Go, yes, councillor.
I've got interest in application 24/0865 full.
Thank you, councillor Adrian. Anyone else? No. B, to receive members' requests that a record be made of their membership of a town or community council where discussion has taken place of matters for the consideration of this committee. I don't believe we have any. To receive declarations from members of the committee that they will be acting as local representative in respect of an individual application being considered by the committee. Again, I don't believe we have any. And D, to note the details of members of the county council who are not members of this committee who will be acting as a local representative in respect of an individual application being considered by the committee.
Chair, I'll be making a statement with regard to the first application, reference change of use at Kevin Mysyth, Kai Hopkin. It's Councillor David Thomas.
Thank you, councillor Thomas. Noted. Councillor Jeremy.
I'll be making a statement about the fourth application regarding the cottage in Montgomery.
Thank you, councillor Jeremy. Councillor Graham.
Yes, I'll be making a statement in regard to the Valley View application, which is number 2 on your agenda.
Thank you, councillor Graham. I believe that's everyone, Carol, yes? Good, thank you. Item number 4, planning applications for consideration by the committee this morning. 4.1, updates. There have been updates circulated at the end of last week. Have all members received them and had the opportunity to read them? I'm looking for a show of hands. Everyone has had that chance, please. Yeah, everyone in the chamber and number online. Just to make it easy, if anyone hasn't had a chance, please say now. No, I'll take it by your silence. Thank you very much. So moving swiftly on to item 4.2, our right, item number 4.2, the first application, 24/0820/FUL. This is an application for a change of use. Just to give you all an outline of how this is going to work today, we have 9 speakers on this application. So we will invite the officer, Councillor Gemma, to speak first. Then I will ask Councillor David Thomas to speak. We've heard from Councillor David, he is with us. We will then have Councillor Susan Pyart to speak from the Community Council. Councillor Susan, are you with us? Thank you. Then we will have Daryl Williams. Daryl, are you with us? Thank you. Then Kieran Williams. Kieran Williams. Yes, thank you. Danielle Snailham-Beck. Yes, thank you. Craig Maggs. Thank you. And Anna Evans. Diolch. And then we've got 2 speakers as well. Mac McHugh. Yeah. Thank you. and finally, Zach Snape. Brilliant, thank you. So we've got all our speakers. That's the order we will be calling you. You will have 5 minutes for the objectors each to speak, and then the people speaking after will have a combined total of that, which will be 25 minutes, which we can split between the two of you. So I hope that makes it clear how the format of this will go. So in that, I think I will ask Gemma to start us off on the application. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, members and members of the public. Before the speakers, I'll just briefly run through the application site. So here, marked with a star, is the approximate location of the application site. So we are located within the village of Caerhopkyn, which under the local development plan is designated as a small village. To give a bit of understanding about the site location, so the property is towards the end of Morgan Street, which is a no-through road or a cul-de-sac, and that ends towards the west of the application site, as you can see before you. Otherwise, the site has residential properties to the east, south and west, and then to the north there is agricultural fields. This just gives a bit more context to the application site location. So you can see here the property, which is currently a residential property, is situated in a large plot of Morgan Road, which runs directly to that south. And the surrounding, you can see those neighbouring residential properties. This just then shows a block plan, and I want to indicate here, you can see that 7 parking spaces have all been indicated within the curtilage of that application site. Given the number of speakers we have, I will now pass straight to the speakers and I'll pick up afterwards. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Gemma. I'd now like to invite Councillor David Thomas, the local member who is joining us online, to speak to the committee. And Councillor Thomas, you have 5 minutes from when you start.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, members and officers. My apologies, I can't be with you today. I have a funeral to attend in Swansea at lunchtime. Right, so as has been stated, Caerhopkyn is a small village, and of all the villages in Tywi Uchaf, Caerhopkyn has the least services. Only a small playground, and reference made to a bus service is misleading, as it's very, very infrequent. The village is made up essentially of 3 rows of terraces surrounded by detached houses and bungalows. Nearly all parking is on street, which means that all access and exit is essentially conducted via single-lane traffic. The police report highlights the congestion on these roads, which Powys Highways failed to identify as a problem in their report. Cefn Meisydd is situated at the far end of 2 of these terraces, and anybody with any knowledge of the village would agree that vehicle movement is a problem. Reference to parking behind the terraces is misleading, as this would prove to be difficult to access and would obstruct access to residents' gardens. The report before you does not reflect the significant problems faced by traffic wishing to access Cefn Meisydd and fails to identify the limited room for manoeuvrability of vehicles in the curtilage of the property if 7 vehicles are parked there. Goodness knows what would happen in the event of an emergency. I'm disappointed that the Chair and officers dismissed my request for Planning Committee to conduct a site visit. The reason given was that there are visuals in the report and that the area can be viewed on Google Earth. None of these provide committee with the opportunity to judge actual vehicle movements, which is critical material concern in this application. I'd now like to look at the issue of capacity. Tywi Uchaf Community Council area already plays host to 4 children's homes. 2 are private and 2 are run by Powys County Council. One of the Powys run homes has been mothballed and expressions of interest have been invited from private operators to run it. Why haven't Fairways gone down that route? The police, in a summary at the conclusion of the crime report for the ward, state that the figures do not include 85 cases of missing persons they have had to respond to, most of which were down to existing care homes. They are concerned that the available police resource in the ward cannot cope with any increase in demand. When a child goes missing, it triggers an emergency service response. One such instance, which I witnessed, involved 2 police cars, 2 ambulances and 1 fire engine, all under blue lights. The traumatic impact on existing village residents and, importantly, small children should not be underestimated. Fairways claim that their homes are well managed and this type of event would not apply to them. That might be the case, but one of their current homes is situated in Hale Senni, which is only a stone's throw from the boundary of Taw Uchaf, essentially contributing to a 5th Open Award. Residents of that village tell a different story, and my conversations with the county councillor for Maes Car tell a different story. However, it would not be appropriate to demonstrate past events in this public meeting. The point of the matter is that residents and I accept the need for more children's homes in Wales. We accept that every child deserves to be brought up in a safe and caring environment. However, care homes do, sometimes, bring with them the additional need for extra external resources having to be applied when a difficult situation arises. It's already been demonstrated that the type of resource required is already exhausted in Taw Uchaf. That, coupled with the poor accessibility provided by the site of this property and lack of services in the village of Caerhopkyn, would lead me to hope that committee will refuse this application. There are already enough care homes in Taw Uchaf. One final point of note is the poor communication that has taken place between the applicant and the villagers. The one public meeting that did take place turned out to be extremely confrontational and ended with ultimatums being presented to residents. Not a good start to a relationship which, unfortunately, despite commitments by the applicant to improve relations if the application is granted, is doomed to failure because the problems presented, which put simply, cannot be addressed. This is not the type of culture that would prove to be beneficial to the current children of the village or indeed those of the proposed care home. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor David. Councillor Susan, please, if you'd like to come up to the seat here. And in your own time when you're ready.
Right, bore da. I am Susan Pyatt, Vice Chair of Taw Uchaf Community Council, and I am a resident of Caerhopkyn. I've been a governor of the primary school and am a governor of the local secondary school. I was a senior teacher in a North Wales secondary school, and I taught very vulnerable children. There is a very fluid population in North Wales, and many children had lost any connection with their wider families and a settled community. I do not like the model of children's care which divorces children from what they know to a very different environment. Cefn Meisydd was built by my great-uncle at the same time as the 3 terraced roads around it. I've always considered Caerhopkyn unique in that the colliery was a single employer and very many of the families were related. Perhaps that led to a village design which has implications for the application today. The 3 colliery terraces and newer properties form a cul-de-sac with Cefn Meisydd at the furthest point. Every vehicle must pass to and fro along the same path to the proposed home. Every possible car space is taken up each evening. A children's home with its own cars, a manager, shift changes, therapists and deliveries will make for a more dangerous environment. We know there's likely to be a much higher call out of emergency vehicles who will struggle to reach the house in the evening and will block in other residents. I feel that this has not been fully considered by the Highways Department, and our emergency services will be stretched to the limit. There are no comments in the report on pedestrians in Caerhopkyn. Walking out of Caerhopkyn, there's no pavement along Station Road with unsighted bends in both directions. Any increase in traffic will be an increased risk for pedestrians and would be dangerous for vulnerable children. The terrace properties were all designed with a roadway separating the houses and their gardens. Everyone can walk past each back door and garden. It is not possible to make them secure. This brings me on to the issue of fear of crime. The fear is that if this application is approved, there will be the same negative effects as there have been in Hale Senni, where the other Fairways homes operate. Our children, elderly and animals may be intimidated and suffer from crime. Increased anxiety and decline in social opportunities lie ahead for our residents, because walking and long chats with neighbours are part of our way of life. Fairways were quick to declare that there would be compensation for damage, but that is nothing to being anxious around your own home. Fairways management do not understand or accept the difference in culture between themselves and Kai Hopkin. There are no facilities in Kai Hopkin for children except a park. We have no shop and no building in which to meet. The welfare hall in Abercrave does not cater for children. The post office is to close shortly. Public transport is very limited. We have a post-industrial landscape which has not been fully restored. Local children have a shared knowledge of safe places, but new vulnerable children should not be exposed to the risks of the roads, the river, flyover, and the mountains. I can quote fatal accidents on all of them. Fairways have been contradictory in stating whether they will educate the children or will send them to local schools. Post-COVID, children locally have extensive well-being needs, let alone the ever-increasing number of those with additional learning needs. Mention has been made of this proposal leading to employment, but any educational or therapy support locally needs to be used locally already. I have a totally different
We have 1 minute
understanding
left.
of provision for Powys children in care to that given by the planning department. Powys children are to be homed within the county and preferably to be fostered rather than put into home care. The typical costs of £12,000 per week from groups such as Fairways are far too expensive to be sustainable for Powys. We have 4 care homes in the area already, and Kevin and I said is not needed for Powys children. This is not an exchange of difficult children. Any new home should be sited where their young people can take advantage of suitable facilities, not in Kai Hopkin, just a convenient stop for Fairways between their homes in Helseni and their business in Resolven. Right, diolch yn fawr.
Diolch yn fawr, Councillor Susan. Next to speak to the committee, please, Darryl Williams. And Mr. Williams, you have 5 minutes and the floor is yours when you're ready.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman,
you
County
could please-
Councillors, thank you for allowing us to address our concerns this morning over the proposed change of use of Cefn. My name's Darryl Williams. I've been a resident of Kai Hopkin for 43 years. I'm a retired school teacher and spent 37 years of my life dealing with often difficult children. This proposal is very controversial as far as we as residents are concerned. We understand that today we're only able to present material concerns to you, but it's very difficult sometimes to separate emotion from material concerns, but we understand and respect that need. Mrs. Pyatt and Mr. Thomas have already painted a very good picture of the hamlet, I'd like to call it, of Kai Hopkin. Residents seldom leave the area to set up home elsewhere, and children brought up in the hamlet often return to build and bring up their own families. It's a very happy place. The proposal states the change of use of Cefn from a family home to a residential care home for children and young adults by the Fairways Group, a charity regulated by the Financial Conduct Authority. Now, I find it difficult to grasp how a charity can spend such enormous amounts of money on a very sizable lease for a property. The proposal outlines periods of care for youngsters of between 3 and 36 months, depending on need. Some of the youngsters, we're told, will have severe behavioural issues. My argument is that this amounts to not a home for children and young adults, but a stop-off institution for children and young adults with behavioural issues. A home, in my view, is built over time, sharing with people you love. In Fairways' planning application, Cefn was chosen because it was seen as a midpoint between its facilities in Ailsenni and Resolven. But will it be the midway stop-off point? We've heard recently that the Resolven facility is losing its licence. The HSE government document declares that Resolven held a 2-year licence which expires in December 2024. If that's the case, then perhaps Mr McHugh could explain that situation to the Planning Committee during their presentation. If the proposal goes ahead, we've been told the home will operate an open door policy to its children and young adults. Caeopgin's surrounded by dark pathways leading to the villages of Abercrave, Ystwyth and Colbryn. Caeopgin's nothing by way of facilities and amenities, and the children are likely to roam or get up to mischief for entertainment. The black paths from Caeopgin hold many dangers, and if they wish to play hide and seek with the authorities, then I can certainly recommend Caeopgin for that. We also have concerns over the fact that documentation the community has presented to the planning department, and there's a considerable amount of it, might not have been seen by the planning committee. I am sure, however, that it's been dealt with professionally by those people who have received it. It appears, however, that further documentation from Fairways has been added to the planning application as late into the process as the 14th of September, when we as objectors have been told to abide by very strict dates. The whole process, to me, seems highly weighted in favour of the planning applicant. We've heard some horrific stories from the residents of Hale Senni who had no opportunity to raise objections because of the backdoor route to setting up these homes, which was originally planned for Caeopgin. Our elderly and young children are currently
have 1 minute
safe.
left.
Thank you. And we hope as a planning committee you'll help us keep them so. From the number of people you can see observing today, this is not a NIMBY appeal, but an appeal based on very real fears for the community of Caeopgin. Thank you for listening to me this morning. Thank you for your valuable time. And my neighbours will now elaborate on some of the points I've mentioned briefly. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Williams. Next, please, Kieran Williams. And if I could encourage all speakers, please, to take their seat before starting to speak. It's so that members joining at home can see your faces and the camera can pick up your. Thank you. Floor's all yours, sir.
Much. Thanks for the opportunity to come here today to discuss the proposed change of use at Kevin Mysydd. My name is Kieran Williams and I live in Caeopgin along with my wife and 2 young children. I've been a resident at Caeopgin since birth. I'd specifically like to explore if there is a need for the proposed change of use in Caeopgin in the local area. I'd also like to touch on some of the points made in the applicant's justification of need document uploaded to the planning portal in September 24, some 3 months after the initial application. To be clear, I don't think anyone here in this room today questions the need for children's care facilities throughout Wales or indeed throughout Powys. There are, though, questions that arise in relation to the need for this specific location and how this perceived need ties into the requirements and hierarchy of the local development plan. One of the LDP's key visions and objectives and requirements of policy H3, as noted in the Planning Officer's recommendation, is to enable an appropriate level of development in smaller villages and rural areas, to increase sustainability, helping to support rural services and facilities, and meeting the needs of local communities. The common theme throughout the plan and policy is meeting a local need. The Planning Officer's recommendation states that while the information provided in the applicant's document has not been corroborated by PCC Social Services, officers are satisfied that there is a wider want for these type of units. A wider want for these units has no bearing on the local need as dictated by the policies. The County of Powys stretches 274 kilometres north to south and nearly 100 kilometres wide. The Powys Children Looked After Strategic Framework document confirms this as an area covering 5,200 square kilometres and recognises the difficulty such a large area creates in accommodating children close to their homes. The Stats Wales website that was used in the applicant's justification of need document confirms that as of 31st of March 24, there are 35 children in placement in residential settings across the County of Powys. The data doesn't illustrate that just 5 of these children are currently accommodated within Powys, as is alluded to within the document. It might also be insightful if the applicant could confirm how many Powys children are currently accommodated in their existing facilities at Hale Senni. For the purpose of my discussion today, I've classed the local community as the small village of Caeopgin, and the other immediate surrounding villages and large or main town of Ystrad. This broadly aligns as a 5-kilometre radius surrounding the property. This area equates to just 1.5% the area of Powys. Within this 5-kilometre radius surrounding the property, there are already 6 registered children's homes, 4 within the county. Research undertaken by the community has shown that each of these homes is equipped to safely accommodate a minimum of 2 children. That means within a 5-kilometre radius or 80 square kilometre surrounding the property, there are existing facilities to accommodate 12 children. This already means there's capacity for 33% of the county's looked after children in residential settings within just 1.5% the area of Powys. Introducing the proposed setting with a capacity for a further 4 children increases that 33% figure to 46, nearly half the county's provision. How does this proposal align with LDP of meeting needs locally? Similarly, and according to 2021 census data, the population within this same radius is approximately 14,000 people. The population of Powys at the same time was calculated as 133,000. This small area therefore encompasses just 10.5% of the Powys population, yet already offers 33% of the care home capacity. The local need for this change of use in Caeopgyn isn't clear and certainly doesn't appear clear enough to go against the key objectives of the LDP for small villages. The Powys Children Looked After strategic framework document that is referenced by the applicant states placements should be local to enable children and young people to remain in their communities, maintain their networks and minimise disruption in their lives. Adding further residential settings in one dense area does not help it meet this objective either.
You have 1 minute left.
The same framework document also states there's a concerning trend in respect of stability of placements for our children looked after within Powys. The average length of current placements for children looked after in Powys is 3 years and 3 months. The planning statement for the proposed change of use at Cefn states children may be in attendance from periods as short as 3 months to as long as 3 years. The proposal therefore doesn't appear to improve on the concerns already raised by Powys Council, further questioning the need for this proposal in Caeopgyn. It's clear in literature, in media and in the justification document provided by the applicant that there is a macro need for facilities such as this throughout Wales. There is, however, no evidence that supports the proposed site in Caeopgyn is an appropriate location or in line with LDP. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Mr. Williams. Next to speak, please, can I ask Danielle Snellam Beck, please? Again, 5 minutes. The time is yours when you're comfortable and ready to go.
Bore da pawb. In my presentation today, I questioned how a community objection representing 91% of the residents of Caeopgyn can go unheard. In a democratic society, I of course recognise that your focus today is on material concerns. However, I urge you to also consider the moral, ethical and societal implications of this proposal on our community. One of the key principles in the Planning Policy Wales Edition 12 is creating and sustaining communities, which emphasises the multiple social considerations that should be made, particularly the impact on the community and its residents. A community that has collectively submitted a 76-page document evidencing, which I have with me, the inadequacy of the site pertaining to the material concerns clearly feel affected by this proposal, feel their lives would be negatively impacted, and most certainly do not feel this would support the community's well-being and cohesion, objectives outlined in the Powys Local Development Plan. Disturbingly, an elderly resident has already faced verbal and physical assault from the homeowner, and the wider community has been threatened with statements like, "We're coming to Caeopgyn whether you like it or not." This intimidation occurred during the only consultations with Fairways, despite being urged by Jane Dodds to engage in more consultation. In her letter dated October 10th, she expressed the lack of community engagement as unacceptable and advised that the application should be refused. Let me now provide you some context on our community's demographics. The proposed site is surrounded by residents who are at risk, 173 vulnerable individuals. Over 61% of Caeopgyn are elderly, disabled, children, including looked after children, or part of minority groups who already require our protection. The LDP and One Powys Plan prioritise the elderly residents and community cohesion. I'm sure you can appreciate that this proposal does not enable our residents to lead fulfilled lives within their community when they feel the very fabric of the community in which they've built their lives is compromised. Research shows that individuals with multiple adverse childhood experiences, ACEs, face increased risk of health and mental health challenges. The Fairways Impact Report 2023 indicates that children are referred to their services for reasons such as involvement with county lines drug networks, gang culture, and various forms of exploitation, all contributing to ACEs. Kai Hopkins environment, with its black paths, deep ravines, rivers and waterfalls, train testing facility and major trunk road between Swansea and Brecon, poses additional risks for young people with increased mental health issues, dysregulated emotions, challenging behaviour, history of trauma and involvement in criminal activity. This area leaves those already vulnerable young people at risk of experiencing more trauma or worse. Additionally, we have no access to crisis CAMHS care in the area. Do we want to place these young individuals who need understanding and compassion in an environment where they might unintentionally compromise the safety and well-being of the community or of themselves? The report suggests that a children's residential care home is not materially, so the report in front of you suggests that the children's residential care home is not materially different from a family home. However, a family home is a secure, permanent base for children to establish roots within a family environment and the wider community. This is not what the proposed site offers. The Powys Options Appraisal Framework asks essential questions pertaining to the facilities that would foster community interaction, such as a school, village hall, community centre, pub, shop, play facility. While Kai Hopkin has a small park, it lacks the essential amenities for meaningful integration into the community. A garden with a large grass area cannot compensate for this deficiency. Fairways claims the site is ideally situated between the Heel Senny site and the Resolve and Activity Centre. Not only is there a residential care home for young people currently out to tender in the neighbouring village of Colburn, the Resolve and Activity Centre will soon cease operations as it's no longer renewed.
You have 1 minute left.
Thank you. Members of the Planning Committee, I urge you to carefully consider the objections raised today and review the evidence presented in the community response document. Fairways have stated that they pride themselves on transparency, but actions speak louder than words, and their actions are deafening, particularly their lack of meaningful engagement. As Jane Dodds noted, the absence of meaningful dialogue between Fairways and the local residents raises significant concerns about how any potential issues or conflicts would be addressed if the application were to be approved. Given this context and the evidence provided, proceeding with this application would not only be inappropriate, but morally indefensible. Diolch yn fawr.
Thank you very much, Danielle, Snail and Beck. Next to speak, can I invite please Mr. Craig Maggs? Very good, Mr. Maggs. Floor's all yours.
Thank you. Good morning all. Thank you to the Planning Committee for allowing me to speak in relation to the planning application of Kevin Mysydd. I was fortunately been born in Cehopkin and now own my own house in the same street with my family, which includes 3 children, just 2 houses from my childhood home where my elderly widowed mother still resides. I'm just one of many multi-generation families who reside in the village currently. I'd just like to spend a few minutes to discuss the community concerns around highways, traffic, parking aspects of the application. Kevin Mysydd is situated in the main residual cluster. Its position is not on the Powys Highways Road. It is accessed via a shared private roadway at the end of Morgan Street, which is fed from the main artery road, the U0412 County Highway that services Arbroath Terrace, Davis Street and Morgan Street. This is a single-file road due to the on-street parking of the residents. There's no Powys Highways turning space and vehicles can only change direction by reversing to private driveways onto private road that serves Kevin Mysydd or the private lane at the end of Morgan Street. Kevin Mysydd currently is accessed over a right-of-way. A change of use from C3 dwelling house to C2 young person's home you may decide is lawful. However, it is a radical change in the character for the existing property, and as a result, that change of use of the private roadway will be substantially intensified to such an extent that the change of use would not be lawful. Currently, there are 140 vehicles belong to 61 properties in this cluster, excluding any visitors or delivery vehicles, which have become the near constant fixture in the current climate of online next day delivery serviced by multiple private contractors. Long gone are the days of the single postman delivery, or where you could play football and tennis in the street without any worry about traffic or interruptions. The block plan suggests the ability to currently park 7 vehicles on site. Whilst this complies with the CSS Wales parking standards, the reality is that to comply with the minimum car parking space sizes according to the British Parking Association, the vehicle movements will have to be a choreographed event around the shift changeovers, given the available turning space at the property. This condition will deteriorate should there be any consideration given to accessible parking provision or large vehicles being used by the staff, visitors, or service providers to the business. The consultation request conducted by Dyfed-Powys Police highlights that if a decision is made to approve this application, as a minimum, they would require proposed conditions within their management plan. One of these points relate to the staffing levels, where there should be no less than 3 staff on duty during weekends and school holidays. So due to shift changes, there will be 6 spaces occupied at times every day. This is without any other fairways management, visitors, service providers, or deliveries. The proposed conditions also state that all vehicles are to be legally parked where they cause no obstruction to other road users or residents. Planning Policy Wales states that in established urban and rural neighbourhoods, traffic management measures should be adopted to improve the street environment and promote road safety. The consultation response from the Highways Authority estimates that the traffic movements for this proposal could result in a 100% increase in daily traffic movements compared to those expected of a 7-bedroom family house. And this would be a 500% increase from the current occupancy of Kevin Maisydd. Either the plan application or the Highways report have stated or taken into account the additional vehicle movements over the right-of-way of refuse recycling, ground maintenance, laundry service, to name but a few. There's no other vehicle access to the site, and each and every vehicle, regardless of size, weight or use, needs to use this right-of-way, resulting in a substantially intensified use of a small piece of land, which was not mentioned at all in the application, and neither were the owners of the land contacted, which is another error in the application form submitted by an agent by the applicant. The Highways report is based wholly on the details supported by the applicant and is not feasible for the operations they carry out. It is not a robust or reliable report and therefore should not be taken into consideration until it takes into account
We have
the
1 minute
accurate
left.
calculations of the traffic and business within the village we actually create. As part of the planning statement and the boundaries, fairways will be fencing and gating their property to both secure and prevent pedestrian access. This locked door policy will just increase the static traffic on the shared and private driveways, increasing congestion from local residents. Such an increase from existing movements will sure not improve the street environment nor the road safety within Caerhopkyn. This increase does not include the potential movements linked to any emergency service, as outlined within Dyfed-Powys Police consultation, where calls to existing 3 care homes located in a few miles from this site are high due to repeat regular missing persons from this address. Highlighting the current demand from the police service in relation to Powys Children's Services, Dyfed-Powys has identified Kevin Maisydd's location as a single road for entry and egress from the property along a densely populated narrow road with no turning points, and how it is necessary to ensure that all children's care homes are situated in the most safe and secure environment possible. Finally, these issues will be faced by all emergency service should they require to attend, and would increase traffic and parking could result in necessary delays to the ability to reach the intended destination. Thank you all.
Thank you very much, Mr. Maggs. I'd now like to ask Anna Evans, please. Yeah, well. Whenever you're ready, your 5 minutes starts when you're comfortable.
Okay. Sorry.
Good morning, Bore Da Bawb. I wish to thank you for the opportunity to put forward a balanced response to the planning report produced for this meeting concerning the proposal for the Kevin Maisydd property in Caerhopkyn. In the report produced by the second planning officer assigned to the case, many statements need challenging from a factual point of view. Information about need for this provision being included in a final report that has not been corroborated by Powys County Council Social Services, but could heavily sway the decision in favour of the applicant, is negligent, irrelevant and biased, and should be struck from the report to begin with. This is again an instance of taking the information in the documentation submitted by the applicant as correct, instead of doing due diligence to ascertain the facts. Wording used is also questionable the police report has been paraphrased in a more favourable light towards the application. And that's what I'm going to discuss. So firstly, the comment from David Powys does not state there is no objection and does not state that there will be no unacceptable impact upon emergency services. It lists 3 concerns, and concern number 2 is the most relevant with regards to fear of crime. It states, calls to the police are high due to the children's homes within the area. Regular police attendance is concerning for nearby residents and increases the fear of crime and antisocial behaviour. It is necessary to ensure that all children's care homes are situated in the most safe and secure environments possible. The police and local authority children's services have limited resources to deal with what is seen to be an increasing problem. David Powys Police have dealt with 85 reports of missing people over the 12-month period from 3 other local children's care homes. That's an average of 7 vulnerable missing people per month, resulting in high demand for the police, whose primary aim is to locate and safeguard them from harm and preventing antisocial behaviour and crimes whilst missing. The police report also states a management plan with a total of 9 conditions to begin to mitigate these concerns, but it does not unequivocally state that these pressures will have no impact on the community. The police report therefore does support the concerns of fear of crime raised by the residents of Caerhopkyn, which is indeed a material concern. The only provision provided by Wales by Fairways is called Intervention Wales. This is provided in Heolseni over 2 properties. The length of stay is 3 months and it is classed by themselves as a crisis intervention provision. They state that their homes in Heolseni are located in a contained environment for persons whose behaviour on admission could not be safely managed in a more community-based setting. The planning application states that they are proposing that the young person's length of stay is between 3 months and 3 years. We are extremely concerned that Cefn site will be used as a crisis intervention centre. The properties in Heolseni have had numerous call-outs to deal with issues that Fairways staff have not been successful in de-escalating, and need for external resources, police, rapid response and fire brigade. The verified accounts of violence and antisocial behaviour originating from residents within the 2 properties run by Fairways in Heolseni are alarming. Fairways are advocating for the young persons in their care. I am advocating for the residents of Caerhopkyn and my own children. Why are their rights?
You have 1 minute left.
Thank you. Not just as important as the young persons and Fairways. An increase in any type of crime within our village will create adverse childhood experiences for the children that currently live in the village, which will result in trauma. Why should our children's way of life be altered in this way? Who do we call into account for the trauma that this will cause if this proposal is passed and the 15-year lease is allowed to run? How many incidents will occur within this time frame? How much of a negative impact will this create and on how many? In conclusion, while we understand the need to provide safe environments for young people who have been victims of trauma, crime and exploitation, we believe that Caerhopkyn is not the appropriate location for such a facility due to the high demand on David Powys Police and Powys Social Services within the area, the potential for increased crime and strain on the local resources and the impact on community cohesion are significant material concerns. Diolch o galon. Thank you very much.
Diolch yn fawr, Anna Evans. I believe that concludes the speakers from the objectors. So I'd now like to invite Mr. Mac McHugh and Zach Snape. I don't know, you doing it jointly? Yes, of course. So I can remind you that you have a combined total of 25 minutes. Is the other one programmed in, Carol? Yeah.
Cool, so we switch.
Very good. That's 25 minutes starts whenever you're comfortable. Just, there you go.
Okay, good morning, councillors, and community as well. My name is Mike McHugh. I'm the CEO at Fairways. In terms of today, I'm going to do a little bit to talk about the history of Fairways, what we are as a charity. I'll then hand over to my colleague Zach, and then I'll finish off by trying to respond to some of the key points that were raised by the community. Okay, so Fairways was founded in 2002. In 2004, we employed just 16 staff, and that's when we opened our first residential care home. So we have been doing this for quite some period of time. In 2016, we became a not-for-profit organisation. We now operate 4 registered children's homes, 3 special needs schools, soon to be 2 residential family centres, an independent foster care agency, a registered special needs outreach provision. We run a specialist hub of therapeutic staff, and we run our own internal training department that's won national awards. These services are all regulated individually by multiple regulators. That includes Ofsted, the Care Quality Commission, and our Welsh homes are regulated by the Care Inspectorate Wales. Most of these services are inspected once or twice a year, with a few of them inspected every 3 years by the independent regulator. I can tell you that every single one of these services is rated as either good or outstanding or excellent by the regulators. And anyone with any experience of working in the care profession or education will know that to get an outstanding grading is not something that comes easily. What I would like to do is, that's hopefully set a little bit of the context of us as a wider charity, but Zach is the manager of our home in Helsenni, and he's going to respond to some of the points that were raised about how our operations in Helsenni work and the comparisons between that and the new provision that's been proposed. So if I hand over to you, Zach. Cool.
Good morning, councillors. Just to going to look at really some of the current homes we actually have registered through CIW, and also look at the new home moving forward. So we're going to look at staffing currently in the T Ross and Birch Grove homes within Helsenni area. So T Ross has been established for about 11 years, and Birch Grove has been in place now for 4 years. But I've been with Fairways for the last 3 years, and I can say that we as a management team have worked hard to establish a consistent staff team, and this allows us to look at the development of Wales and have the structures in place to expand. Staff in the current homes at Birch Grove and T Ross Bark have been working for the company in the homes for a range of 6 months to 5.5 years. There are 13 staff who've been there for more than 2 years. 8 staff between 1 and 2 years. With this, all staff carry out relevant training within the first 6 months and complete an in-depth induction period. Staff working across the homes have also worked in residentials for a number of years, such as myself, 12 years, Rachel, who was manager of the other home for over 14 years. Some of the more experienced staff who currently have been in the sector for a similar amount of time. Our induction to the company is second to none. It highlights the company's ethos, training for the role, expectations, role modelling, and has the community issues as part of this. During our last inspection, we were seen as being sector leading and in the top 5 to 10% of Wales running homes. And this will tell you, and this obviously shows and will tell you the experience and professional the management have at the homes. Just looking at the staff team and locality of where they are from. T Ross Birch Grove is situated in Helsenni, and we look to employ local people. Out of the current staff team, we have 5 who reside in the Brecon area, 5 who reside in the Beowulf area, 2 from Landod. We have 8 from the Merthyr County. The other staff are all located within Wales. The staff have an understanding of rural communities and the importance of building these relationships so everyone can work together to be part of the community that is helped in. We have 3 fluent Welsh speakers, and this is something we actively promote, where Welsh lessons are on offer. Just going to look at now about with expanding the homes in Wales that create developmental opportunities for other local people. Following on from from the current staff within the opportunity for Fairways to expand in Wales. This allows for more opportunities for local people who live in local surrounding areas. With our current shift pattern of 2 on 4 off, it allows staff to travel a little bit further afield, which still keeps a consistent approach for young people who reside there. With the potential growth, this will not only be growth for the staff who are currently in positions within Fairways, from support workers to seniors, seniors to team leaders, and team leaders to deputies. It will also open up potential opportunities for 14 new staff across the services in Wales. We've opened up opportunities, staff that have or been recruited don't have to necessarily have the experience of working in the care sector. Fairways offer a high standard of training and professional development. Having said this, it will allow for people to be able to have a career change and not have the barriers of not having experience. Just want to touch upon the training within Fairways and development that's offered. I've worked across the care sector for 12 years, as stated previously, and I've never been in a company like Fairways for the training opportunities on offer for staff. These are such a high standard. Staff will have to carry out mandatory training as part of their probation period, and the course is delivered over a minimum of a day rather than being online courses. This also allows for more depth for staff to have a greater understanding to be able to provide a better service. Fairways, alongside other companies, will have to do mandatory training such as fire prevention, GDPR, food hygiene. Fairways have a sector leading training, which is RISE, which is our 5-day programme within a Fairways Complete. A little bit on RISE. RISE stands for Relationship Inspired Ideas for a Supported Environment. It's been designed as a cohesive model that is forged with strong therapeutic ground based on research of experts in this field. The ethos is deeply rooted into theories of trauma attachment and the therapeutic culture, and this allows for the service to be individualised to the young person and trauma informed. Few of the concerns have been that the home in the Kai Hopkins area will be very similar to the two homes that currently reside in Hoyle Senny, which is T Ross and Birch Grove. As stated, T Ross Birch and Birch Grove are 12-week intervention placements, but have the opportunity to extend placements to ensure the transition is in place to ensure the best outcomes for the young people. The Kai Hopkins home will be a longer-term residential, which will allow for young people to reside longer to further grow and engage back with education. We do have currently 2 young people in the homes that want to stay with us and continue their journey within Fairways. And these are possibly 2 young people that could be considered for the new home if it all goes through. One of the young people that have currently resides with us has been accepted into Brecon High School, and the other young person will carry out ASDANs alongside our Fairways Outdoor Activity Programme volunteering schemes. Just going to look at now young people present less challenging behaviour. Young people who reside in the Kai Hopkins area will be less challenging to the young people who reside in T Ross and Birch Grove. We have a structured referral process, and we have great input from our clinical hub team within Fairways, who will be in support of the management team, ensuring that young people are the right match and not just the home, and for the home, but also the residents will already be in placement. From my experience of working across the 2 homes, there have been young people that have been beneficial for a step down longer care if we had another home in the area in Wales. And I feel that some of the young people, if they stayed with us for an extra 6 months to 2 years, would have been integrated back in with their family, which is our target and our goal. I'm just going to read out a couple of statements from a few local authorities in Wales that we've used, and then I'll quickly move on. So we've reached out to different local authorities we've used in Wales, and so I'm just going to read out a couple of emails, if that's okay. So this one's from a social worker in the Vale of Glamorgan. Hi Zach, the experience Birch Grove was like no other I've seen. The work that's been put in for the young people within this short period of time was life-changing. The first 6 weeks, getting him settled, relationships are built with staff, building on confidence and behaviour. He felt cared for and respected for, and leading such a positive outcome, which has secured a transition to a longer-term residential back in county. I believe that if young people were able to stay longer and a longer-term provision was there, young people have a greater impact on young people moving forward in the future. And the 2 weeks transition could have been extended and longer. Young people constantly brings up the experience within Birch Grove and the relationships he has built with staff. It is very hard for young people to grow within a residential setting, but Birch Grove lays out the structure and is perfect for young people to develop their work towards the future. Another email back. Good afternoon, Zach, Rachel. Sorry for delaying getting back to you. The experience was A is the initials. Had a positive experience at Birch Grove. He shared that staff all engaged with him were different to his earlier experiences. Zach was a pleasure to work with. Staff always welcome and engaging. I'll have no hesitation with placing other young people at Birch Grove. We would also like to add the following. A longer term provision from this provider would hugely be beneficial for the local authority and our young people. The placement would provide opportunity for self-esteem and to be able to get involved in team building activities where leadership skills could be identified as young people. The placement fully promotes A's relationship with the family and friends. Currently, there appears to be a huge shortage of quality residential placements for young people who would be welcomed. And we would welcome the opportunity to a new longer term home be available for our young people. Just quickly going to touch on what we do for local communities and how we use local facilities. Opportunities to support locals across the 2 homes currently. We try and give as much back to the community as possible. We try this by using local community hall. This is for our team meetings and some training. Obviously, Brecon is the closest town and Sennybridge is our local garages. So we try and use our local garages for cars and repairs, MOT services, etc. We use local maintenance companies such as carpenters, carpet layers, gardeners, electricians, and we also support local clubs. Which is currently at the moment, Brecon Quarries was sponsoring a player and a board around the pitch. We always look to attempt to engage with our local communities. Just on a couple of things in regards to current residents and our community relationships within Hoyle Senny. We recently held a coffee morning, which some of the residents turned up to. Yes, there were some concerns over some of the little things, and that's totally understandable. One being the postcode of where we are and it covering the whole area. That was the biggest one that we sort of come across. But we've got other neighbours who, when they're away, we go and help water their garden. We have another lady up the road on one of the farms who lets some of our young people go and feed the cats. She converses with our young people politely and with respect, which our young people reciprocate. She's given us daffodils to plant at the home. She will also walk by and chat to both staff and young people. One of our Hoyle Senny residents sent us a card and said, "Thank you for organising a coffee morning. This is something that she has felt was missed from the community." That's all from me.
Diolch. Thank you, Zach. I understand that there's been, conflicting opinions about how the homes in Hoyle Senny are ran from the opposition and then from ourselves. But I guess I would just ask you to consider the care inspector at Wales. They describe an exceptional service, and they categorise the 2 homes that we operate as leadership and management as excellent, our well-being is excellent, and our care and support of young people is excellent. And they describe this as an exceptional service that supports people very well and exceeds our expectations. Okay, I think that one large part of the objections that were raised was traffic, specifically parking. So if I can just briefly cover some of the points there. So obviously Powys Highways have supported the application. We just want to confirm that there will be no staff requirement for any parking on street. We're happy to commit to that. Powys Council have confirmed that there's adequate parking for at least 7 vehicles, and I note from the objections that measurements of the vehicles and how that would be calculated is objected to. If I can ask people to look at the map that's up on the screen there that details where the 7 spaces are. I'm quite happy to say that Fairways are already considering placing plastic lawn grass section, plastic lawn grids over the grass section, so that if ever we needed overflow parking for any specific purpose, we've got a huge area of lawn grass that we could use should we need to. So I'm confident, in fact, I can absolutely guarantee that there'll be no issues with parking on site. One of the questions that was raised was about the safeguarding of our local the young people, particularly in terms of paths and the local area, etc., the geography, the makeup of the land, the local features, etc. I just want to state that these young people that are placed are young people from society. They're no different from any other teenager in the village. They're no different from our children. Okay, I'll perhaps come on to that, how that is the case a little bit later. Fairways' capacity to assess and appropriate safeguard any child, well, that's evidenced hopefully by nearly 25 years of experience. I mean, it's up to the care regulator to say, do we appropriately assess young people when we bring them in? Are we keeping them safe? And if we are doing that, then that will be reflected in our reports. And I would just ask people to look at the nearly 25 years of regulatory inspection reports that confirm that we've got a long track record of doing that. I do accept that that's not the case in lots and lots of other children's homes, but I can certainly give an assurance that it is in ours. The responsibility for assessing the suitability of this home and location and our safeguarding, as I said, Care Inspectorate Wales will do that. They're doing that with our homes in Helseni, and they've graded our capacity to do that as excellent. I mean, I think one of the most important things for me to acknowledge here is that it is clear, whilst I could sit here and challenge or try and placate or give assurance to the local community, there is absolutely no question about the fact that there is a high level of objection. And I don't want to dismiss that. I think that the public meeting that we held, would be fair to say, was a complete disaster. And I'll take full responsibility for that. I've held public meetings in the past, and it would be fair to say that I've never had such a high level of vociferous objections, and I think we were unprepared for that. So I take responsibility for that. Much has been made and suggested about our lack of engagement since then. I will also say that that's been my decision, and the decision not to engage further was because whilst the disastrous meeting was my responsibility, we were clearly misrepresented from the meeting. And it was made evident that following the meeting that there were many in the community who were going to object to what we were doing, no matter what we said or did. And that was made clear. As a result of that, it was felt that it would be more appropriate to follow this process, to go through to put our stuff officially in online. What I want to say, though, is if this approval is granted, that's when our engagement will start further. And again, that's something we're not just a not-for-profit, you know, we're a community benefit society, and we aim, part of our objectives is that we have to put benefit back into the community. So if this application is approved, I can tell you now that we will then start accelerating our process of engagement. I don't doubt that many in the village will still not want to do that, and many won't want us there, but it will be our long-standing objective to become an accepted part of the community that it's proud of. And we've done that. I can tell you one of the homes that we opened in another part of the country, I think we had about 100 letters of objection in our initial opening in 2006. And when we put in an application to extend that home last year, there wasn't a single neighbourhood objection. You know, so we've got a long-standing process of trying to engage with the local community. We'll be having if this is approved, we'll be having an open day, at our home. Zach will invite members of the community to come round, show them round, engage with them. We'll be looking to employ local staff. We'll be looking to engage the local community by our young residents going out in the community and doing things like repair grounds, repair gardens. That might not seem like a huge planning issue, but I can tell you that it's a commitment that we'll be making. Okay. One of the principles that's been hugely debated the most here has been the area of need. I guess what I would like to do is maybe start at the higher level of need and then work down to, you know, what do we actually mean by, is there a need for this service? Okay, so the Welsh Senedd policy. The Welsh Government's published programme Vision for Social Care aims to remove profit from childcare and expand the range of services delivered by the state and not-for-profit provision. The most recent integrated impact assessment in May 24 highlighted a key commitment relating to the new vision for children's social care for the Senedd, which reads, for those children who are in care, we want them to remain close to home so they can continue to be part of their community. This means putting in place the right types of care for each child, reforming and joining up services for looked after children and care leavers, providing additional specialist support for children with complex needs, and better supporting those who care for these children. Of the 8 individual commitments in the National Framework Policy, it says that 3 of these include to eliminate private profit from the care of looked after children during the next Senedd term, to fund regional residential services for children with complex needs, ensuring their needs are met as close to home as possible, and in Wales, wherever practicable. It goes on further, but I won't read on. What I will do is point out some of Powys Council local policy on this matter. and this is in relation to needs. So there is a statutory responsibility in local authorities to provide suitable accommodation for their own looked after children. Section 812 places a duty on authorities to make placements within their own area. The Local Authority Code of Practice for Looked After Children states that local authorities must consider the benefits of having a number of providers offering a range of accommodation to meet different needs. Powys Children's Services Looked After Children Strategic Framework lists as a primary concern the number of looked after children placed outside of the county of Powys. One of its stated aims is of moving these children closer back to home and preferably within Powys itself. The Welsh Government data published online, it shows that 30 Powys children are placed in residential care homes and only 5 of these homes are within the county. The committee asked to give appropriate weight to how this proposal would support the delivery of published needs and the strategic aims both of the Senedd itself and of Powys Children's Services. A neighbouring local authority need. Caerphilly Children's Services has placed a number of times with Fairways at Tyrios back. I think Zach's read out some of the reference that we've received from them. He also says that they would have no hesitation in placing with us. And then the placements team, which are the team within Children's Services dedicated to finding suitable placements for children. They have stated a longer term provision from this provider would be hugely beneficial to the local authority and to our young people. Currently, again, the referrals team go on to say, currently there appears to be a huge shortage in residential children's placements for young people locally. And we would welcome the opportunity for a new longer term home available to our young people. Okay, just before I close, I just want to read 2 short references, if I may. So the first, which is included in the pack, is from Sir Martin Neri. He says, I was the Chief Executive of Barnardo's UK between 2005 and 2011, and subsequently I advised successive Secretaries of State for Education about child neglect in the care system in England. I published a report on the children's residential care commissioned by the then Prime Minister David Cameron and a report on the fostering system in England by the then Secretary of State Justin Greening. He goes on in his personal reference to state the increasing demand for residential care. The number of children in care has risen significantly in recent years, both in Wales and beyond. The number of children in care in Wales increased from 5,660 in 2017 to 7,210 in 2023. This rise indicates a growing demand for various types of placements, including children's homes that can cater for children with complex needs. He continues, this has led to local authorities currently facing challenges in securing sufficient placements. Powys Children's Services Looked After Children framework gives a full analysis of these problems. These problems, including highlighting that, like most other local authorities, they aim to reduce the number of people who are placed outside of county and often outside of Wales due to the lack of specialist provisions, such as the one being proposed by Fairways. The Welsh Government's 2024 statistics indicate that there is a lack of adequate residential placements in local areas, forcing councils to place children far outside their home regions. This situation is not ideal as it can disrupt children's connections with their communities and support systems. He concludes, in my experience, it is not uncommon for local communities to object to new children's homes opening in their locality. Often, these concerns are rooted in fear more than in reality. A check of Fairways' website confirms that all its services are rated as good or outstanding, and I have had sight of its most recent inspection reports from its 2 existing homes in Powys. What I can say with confidence is that there are few, if any, counties in England and Wales that do not have the need for such a high-quality specialist provision, such as this being proposed by Fairways. I'm going to go on to read a short little bit from, and that's from Sir Martin Neri, as I said. What I would like to do, is just read a short part of a reference from a young person who was placed in Tyrios back, and just to close on his words rather than on my own. Sorry, I do apologise. Okay, so here we go. This is a young person who left us a few years ago. No community anywhere in the country welcomes the opening of a children's home in their locality. The phrase, "this is not the right area," is a common refrain in such situations, and I understand the fears that some have. However, it is crucial to challenge these fears with facts and an
We have 1 minute left.
understanding of what these homes truly represent. Unfortunately, looked after children are often stigmatised. There is a pervasive and damaging assumption that these young people are troublemakers or threats to society. This stigma overlooks the fact that these children are victims of circumstances beyond their control. With the right support, they have every opportunity to lead positive, productive lives. The fear that they will disrupt or endanger the community is rooted in misunderstanding and misinformation. The young people who would be placed in this home are not to be feared. They are not dangerous nor disruptive. Instead, they are individuals who have faced significant challenges in their lives who need support to rebuild their futures. If no home were ever permitted, my journey would not have been possible. I entered the care system at 13, and after bouncing around the system through countless foster care and residential placements, I found myself placed with Fairways at Tyreos Back. Whilst I do not believe that this placement changed my life, it was where the change started. The structured support... Does that mean?
Please just wrap up your final sentence.
Okay,
please.
sorry. Okay, it's a crucial part of that. Sorry, I do apologise. Okay, yeah, so the structured support that I received there allowed my social worker to see my true potential, which ultimately led me to returning to foster care. That didn't change my life overnight, but it was a crucial part of the process that allowed me to experience the stability and the love of a foster family. I am now, as of writing this, 1 month away from completing my social work degree at the University of Birmingham, with the aim of challenging perceptions of young people in care and championing their rights and views.
Thank you.
I'll leave it there.
Gentlemen, thank you very much for
Thank you
your
very much.
presentation to the committee this morning. We are an hour and a quarter into our meeting this morning, so I have a request for a very short comfort break. So literally for 2 minutes, I'm going to pause the meeting, but can I urge no members of the public to approach any officers or councillors during that break? So for 2 minutes, if anybody wishes a quick comfort break, go quickly, please. Thank you. Carol, would you be so kind as to run a roll call again, please? Settle down, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So, councillor Gareth D. Jones.
Yma.
Councillor Adrian Jones.
Present.
Councillor Tom Colbert.
Present.
Councillor Deb Edwards.
Present.
Councillor Peter James.
Present.
Councillor Ed Jones.
Present.
Councillor Gareth E. Jones.
Present.
Councillor Karina Kenyon-Wade. Councillor Carl Lewis.
Present.
Councillor Jeff Morgan.
Present.
Is that present? Councillor Jeff?
Yeah, present. Oh.
Thank you. Councillor Gareth Pugh.
Present.
Councillor Elwyn Vaughan.
Yma.
Councillor Jonathan Wilkinson.
Present.
And Councillor Hugh Williams.
Yma.
That's everybody correct and present.
Thank you very much, Carol. As stated previously, that concludes our speakers this morning. So I'd now like to ask Officer Gemma, please, would you please take us through your report and to your recommendation?
Thank you very much, Chair. Thank you very much to all the speakers today. I think we can all agree there's a lot of detail and thought put into them. I'll just run through, I'll try and, as I'm going through my report, pull in some of the key points that were raised. Firstly, before I move on, I know that consultation, and we did receive correspondence that asked for the application to be refused due to the consultation on the application. And I know we have heard a bit about it through the public speakers. I would say the consultation with the applicant is very much obviously outside the planning process, but us as the planning authority, we are satisfied that the statutory requirements for the consultation for this plan and application has been followed. So that wouldn't be a reason for us today not to proceed. So on the screen, we literally left it at this block plan where we show the parking spaces which are indicated. I can confirm that the adopted highway, which is the U-class road, does go to the entrance of the property, and then as you head further west through the screen, that is when it becomes a private shared access, is my understanding. But the adopted highway does come to the boundary and to that access to the property in question. So as we can see on site, they have provided here parking spaces provision for up to 7 parking spaces. Now, through highway comments, the actual requirement is only 6 for this type, so there is going to be an oversupply of 1 parking space for the use of the site. We have heard a lot today about vehicle movements and the concerns that's raised with the setting of this property. The Highway Authority have commented, and they did provide 2 comments on the applications following receipt of the concerns raised. Now, this is a 7-bedroom property as existing, and that is to remain as such. They say for a residential property, it's approximately 10 to 14 traffic movements per day, where they expect probably for this use there to be maximum of 14 to 22 per day. That is obviously a maximum, and that is what they have considered as part of their considerations. The Highway Authority, as part of that, have then considered, whilst yes, there could be a small anticipated increase in movements, they do not consider that it would be to the detriment of highway safety. As we can see from this block plan, there is sufficient land within the ownership of the property to ensure that all vehicle movements do happen within the site boundary. Therefore, the Highway Authority have said that they have no objection to the proposal on that basis. So this is currently the existing floor plan of the dwelling as existing, and it shows typically it's a 7-bedroom residential property. This is then the proposed. Whilst it has increased, the floor space is not increasing. It's just the plan that's been provided. But pretty much it just shows that the 7 bedrooms are to remain, and some of the rooms are to change, for example, in the bottom left-hand corner to a staff office rather than a residential room. Some context to the street. So this looks east, back up Morgan Street, which is that adopted highway. So you can see the concerns that were raised with vehicles parking along the highway in that area. And then this is facing west. So this is where then it leads to that private access. This is then the property itself, so there's no alterations externally or to extend the property proposed, but you can see the property there. Obviously, there's existing a hard standard at the moment with the curtilage to the rear and the large double garage, I think it looks like there just to the side. Now, we have heard today a lot regarding the need and principle of the development. Now, policy H3 of the local development plan does state that there is a requirement to provide a suitable mix of housing types. And that includes specialist housing, which would include accommodations such as put before us today. Within that policy, it does state that to meet a range of identified local housing needs. Now, within the local development plan, there is no definition of what local is defined as, but it doesn't state it has to meet with a specific community need. It says local. So I would just say to members that we have to consider that in a wider context. Considering then the Welsh Government's policy, which, as we have heard, so I won't repeat it word for word, but it does have a vision for children's care homes, focusing very much on the values and needs, such as this. There's very much a need to live as a single household. It's a focus more on a community-based service rather than larger care homes. In terms of Powys County Council, as we have heard, there is a framework which was 2023 dated, which did show that there was a wider need for these type of children's facilities. Now, whilst we haven't had a formal comments from the social services team within Powys, informal discussions have been held just to check that that document is correct, and that has been confirmed as correct, that there is a wider need within Powys for such facilities. On that basis, and given that H3 does refer to a local housing need and the wider need from Welsh Government and also Powys County Council within Powys to provide such facilities, the Local Plan Authority are satisfied that there is the use of such does comply with relevant planning policy. In terms of amenities, we have heard today a lot about concerns about the lack of amenities within this local area. All I'd advise to members in this instance is we are dealing here with currently an existing residential property which has up to 7 bedrooms. So it's very likely or very possible that a family with 4 children or even plus could reside in this property tomorrow already existing. Therefore, I would raise concern about raising lack of amenities as an objection due to that this proposal only seeks to house up to 4 children, which would be conditioned through condition 3 as being the maximum number, which this property technically could on a day-to-day basis as a residential unit provide more children. So I would just say to members on that basis, we do have to consider the fallback position, and this property for children is something that would likely to be or could be accommodated as existing. And therefore, that's why the local authority do not consider that a grounds for objection on amenity and lack of services is justified in this instance, just purely based on the fallback position of the existing dwelling. Oh, sorry. So we have heard obviously a lot today about the representations, about the concerns raised, and we have carefully considered all of these whilst leading to our recommendation, and that's taken into consideration case law and a number of appeals which have been determined in the last couple of years. We're very mindful that members must consider the existing use where inspectors, when determining such appeals, have previously confirmed that the number of children can, as I've just mentioned, already live in this setting. So whilst antisocial behaviour, I accept, could be and it would be very upsetting for the neighbours, this could be experienced by neighbours in any residential setting and could be occupied, for example, in this dwelling as existing. What we have to consider here today, and that's what I just would like to clarify, is that it is up to a maximum of 4 dwellings. four children, sorry, I keep mixing my words up there, could be occupied by up to 4 children. And that is something that's not out of keeping with the existing use of the property. The police, which we have heard, have been consulted. And whilst, yes, they definitely didn't say they have no objections, whilst they raised the runaway aspect of children, they did also then, and I just would like to quote it, it's more, they understand it's concerning for nearby residents and increases the fear of crime and antisocial behaviour. There was nothing in their comments to say or support that these units do increase antisocial behaviour. And that's just something we would like to raise is before us. And I think considering the recent appeals and the evidence we've heard, there's no substantial evidence that this proposal would result in greater disturbance to those existing residents as it would in a domestic setting. On that basis, I therefore would lead to my recommendation. I would just clarify in the update report, there was clarification provided around condition 3 for the number of children and the ages. I just would like to confirm that whilst the police, I think, asked for it to be 8 to 18 years, the condition reads 6 to 18. Now, this is provided following consultation and having discussions also with the Care Inspectorate for Wales. This is in line with their legislation. So we've worded that condition in line with those legislations so it doesn't conflict. We have informally raised that between all parties and everyone was happy with the amendment to ensure that it's 60 to 18. On that basis, and with that management plan being provided, as was recommended by Dyfed-Powys Police, our recommendation is one of conditional consent. Thank you, Chair.
Diolch yn fawr, thank you, Gemma. Right, now it's time to hand over to the members to raise questions and points. I'd just like to say, Councillor Elwyn Vaughan hasn't got his laptop working, but he is present in the chamber and he will be doing things like in the good old-fashioned way. So, members, over to you. Councillor Hugh, please. Yours. Oh, I see your hand is up. Is that correct? Yes.
Thank you, Chairman. And I'm impressed by the speakers today, first of all. If there's a passion and puts over the issues that are in Cae Hopkin, I think these speakers have done the residents proud, to be honest with you. So I thank them for that and the other speakers as well. There are some concerns, and I want to ask through the chair for planning. It's not often we get a report from the police in planning. So was it asked for or was it given? And 85 reports of missing people from other homes, which may not be linked to this, but it's a similar one. 85 reports. The resource looking for those children is not just the police, it's not just the social services, it's the local schools. So you're imposing issues on local services, full stop. We haven't mentioned education because the young people, they deserve an education, and there is an experience in the area, and I'm a governor, of other children being in the schools and being challenging. There's nobody from the schools and education being asked for a comment. I think there should have been. Section 17 of the Act that we mentioned here states it is the duty of the authority, and I assume that's us, to exercise its various functions with due regard to the likely effect on crime and disorder and the need to do all it can to prevent crime and order. Is the planning committee satisfied that we are doing that if we pass this? And I'd like the planning officer to respond to that. How does the authority plan to exercise these functions? Do we know?
Are you happy we take that question first, Councillor Hugh, and then come back, or do you want to carry on?
No, by all means.
Thank you.
Start. So, the first question was police and the consultation of the department. I wasn't the handling officer for this application, but my understanding is, given the level of concerns that we received, I do believe we then approached Dyfed-Powys Police for comments on the application. So I do believe that the officer in question did reach out. We had already had some comments from a person, but that wasn't as the authority. I understand that was personal, should we say, for their own comments. But I understand, yes, that the handling officer has been in touch with the police authority to discuss the application.
Through the chair, so can we, is that a material concern that we can consider, that the police have concerns?
Yes, we can consider the comments raised by the police, yes.
Thank you.
And that's where their recommendation for that management plan has come forward then to the condition 3, I want to say it is, because we have taken on board their comments. They raised about their resource, and they said subject to that management plan being submitted, that they would be satisfied with that. It's okay? Yeah. In terms of the school needs, no, the school authority hasn't been consulted. So we're unsure. From my understanding, there isn't a lack of need in this area, but that would just be from my understanding. I would probably say in that it probably goes in hand with the requirement to house these children where they live or brought up or in the local area. That obviously they're not now going across country, cross border, that they're providing in-house, but I don't have specific comments to that effect. So that is just my understanding of the local area.
Through the chair, please. So they should be local. So all the homes that are based in the area, which obviously is not directly involved here, how many of those are Powys-based young people? Because there's a need in Powys, apparently. They're going out of county. So I would assume that the 3 or 4 homes that are existing in our area are full of Powys children, because you've broadened the word community from local to Powys. So are the young people who are possibly referred to these coming from elsewhere as well? Because that's not the LDP purpose. We
don't have information or data of who's in the existing care homes in Powys, and that is that's outside of, I'd say, the planning control. We can't control.
Through the chair, a point has been made that these are local facilities for local children, close to home.
I would say, though, on that basis.
Can I please remind members of the public, please don't. I know it's a emotive subject, and I appreciate how much it means to you. We really do. But please, can you restrain from shouting out? I'll be very grateful if you could do that. Thank you.
Thank you. All I can really say on that basis is going back to the recognised need for Powys. We've got evidence here that Powys County Council does have a need for these facilities, and there's also then policies at Welsh Government level, Wellbeing Act, which all states that we should be providing these facilities in county. Currently, we don't have enough facilities, and that's where we're saying that there's a recognised need.
But through the chair, there is a need, and I agree with you. But how many of these people in these homes, if there's a need for Powys children, how many of these homes they should be full of Powys children? We shouldn't be going outside.
Yeah, I don't think we know.
Yeah, we wouldn't be able to.
Yeah, I don't think we know the answer to that without asking probably social services.
But we should have asked with due respect.
Yeah.
Because the point has been made that these are local facilities for local children, and the word local has been expanded to Powys under the LDP.
Yeah, so we have to discuss this with the social services. I think the difficulty is that they are private units. So whilst Powys County Council recognised, yes, there is a wider need, they don't have obviously any control over those specific units. Do we condition? I don't know if that's
Would it be possible to condition something?
I'm sure there's a policy that would support it. And that's the thing I was just discussing, is there a potential? I was wondering if you were going to go to conditioning, but the problem is we haven't got a policy which would support that condition. So I'm not sure that's something that we could ever secure through planning, that only houses Powys residents.
But through the chair, the point I'm making is need. The point has been made that Powys has a need. Yeah. So the point of knowing the other 3-4 properties in our area, are they full of Powys young people then? In which case, Powys is fulfilling its need, and I think when the speaker said it, I mean, there is a disproportionate number in Ystrad Ganlaeth. So are they all, and it is relevant in my mind, are they all Powys youngsters?
Yeah.
Which we need to support.
Should come back to. Yeah, I don't think we know the answer as to who occupies the other homes there. When it comes to the general need, as Gemma said, there is a general need out there. What we don't know is whether who's occupying the other homes, whether that's creating a greater pressure maybe on trying to find places for the Powys children. I just don't know the answers to those, I'm afraid. It's really about considering whether the use here that's proposed is acceptable or not.
I think Councillor Hughes raised some very valid points there in relation to the locality and the local needs. And I don't think, from what I gather, we're in a position to really answer that conclusively.
Yeah, my only concern would be if, because probably the nature of the units, I don't think that's information that we would be able to obtain. It might be something that I'm appreciating, Rachel, correct me if I'm wrong, if they're private units, they might be very confidential. So I'm not sure if it is something that if I went out to get that information, they'd be very forthcoming to give it to me anyway. So I'm not sure if that's something that we'd be able to gather, shall we say.
So in which case, Powys Children's Services couldn't give you that information on a general terms, and we don't need to know anything else. In that, I think it's relevant, to be honest with you, to know whether these people are fulfilled. The LDP says they should be. So how do we fulfill an LDP need if we don't know who's there?
Yeah, just come back again with the LDP. It doesn't there's no evidence base behind that to say so many children are looking or projecting forward from when it was written. It doesn't do that, and there's no requirement, to my knowledge, for LDPs to do that. What it does is provide a supporting policy environment to enable provision of children's care homes, should the need arise. Okay.
Thank you, Chair. If I can listen to the debate, I might have another question if later, if that's...
Always welcome, please. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Gareth Fee Jones, please.
Yeah, can I start by following up that last point, that last discussion around the other homes in the area? All those homes will be registered with the Care Standards in Wales. On the Care Standards in Wales website will say what the needs of those children they deal with would be identified in that. So I'm quite disappointed that we haven't got information from our Social Services Department. And as chair of the Health and Care Committee, I will be raising that with senior managers within that service on behalf of the planning services. I think I think we should defer a decision on this application because I don't think we've got enough information on it. But can I make some other general points, if I may? Yes, there is a need for this type of facility in Powys, but can I point out that Llanrydder Mochland is mostly further away from Caerhopkyn than where my son lives in Chippenham, in Wiltshire. You know, it's a massive distance. Powys has one of the the third speaker, I think it was, Mr. Williams, stated Powys is over 120 miles north-south. If we want provision in county, we should make sure that provision in county is close to the children's homes. I can see a home in Caerhopkyn serving the Ystrad Ganlaeth area and perhaps going into Neath and Port Talbot, possibly into Swansea. When the gentleman from Fairway spoke, neither of them mentioned a child being placed in the two homes in Ailsenny from Powys. The reference they used was Caerphilly. And the quote they used from a social worker in Caerphilly was saying they wish to have a service closer to their home. Well, perhaps they should be looking for a home in Caerphilly. That's another comment. My concern is we've got too many homes already. I think Councillor Thomas, when he spoke, said there's 4 homes in the area, 2 of which were Powys homes. So we should have details around those homes. And I think one of those are out for tender now. So there may be an opportunity there for Fairways to have a home that's already designated as a children's home, ready fit in community. I'm just concerned that I think it was stated that there are 6 homes within a 5 kilometre radius of Caerhopkyn. I do know the area quite well, and as the speaker said, Caerhopkyn is It's not cut off, but it is, you know, it has got a trunk road splitting it from away from Abercrombie, where the children from the village will actually travel to for education. We have no real indication what type of needs the children that the company would place here would have. We had comments made before that the 2 homes in Oilseni was crisis intervention centres. There's an indication from one of the speakers from Fairway to say that this may well be the next step from that centre into a second home. So I'm just going through all my points. One question I've got, I understand what Gemma said about referring to the police, but do we then, as a planning authority, have a management statement for every other home that we've got in Powys? Children's home we've got in Powys, because I read those conditions. I would expect those conditions to be applied to any children's home by the CSIW. You know, I don't think they're specifically planning. I don't think they're specifically planning conditions. I think we should just put one condition in this registered CSIW and follow those processes. The one about parking on the street. You know, everybody should be parking legally. So there's no point in making that condition in my mind. And the other action is, how do we enforce it? You know, I'm aware of facilities in my own ward where there's condition for no parking on the street. And every time I go past the home, not a children's home, it's for more elderly residents, there's always cars parked outside there. And you know, if we're going to put a condition, we've got a condition that we can enforce and enforce it properly. Very disappointing, as I said, that we've got no information from social services. And like you, I'm disappointed we've got no information from the education services as well, in terms of this type of version, what type of needs and how that would be supported. Obviously, we got support there, but I was involved in the school modernisation in that area, but I'm not aware now what specialised provisions are in those schools at this moment. Like you, Hugh, I may have got some other questions to come back with, but at the moment, I'm not sure I'm in a position to go one way or other. I personally think we should have more information on this application.
I did pick up one question there, Councillor Gareth, in relation to is the management plan something that is statutory across all children's accommodation throughout Powys? Is that, or is this unique?
We don't often have, we have had these type of applications in the past. The only one I'm aware of was a couple of years ago, I believe now, so they're not common. From my understanding, I think this is a new condition. I myself haven't seen it previously be recommended from Dyfed-Powys, so I think this is a new condition that's recommended from themselves. In terms of the education provision, I know I've already said, and I hate to repeat myself constantly, but my only concern is with identifying potential supply or need for education is going just back to this existing use. It is already a dwelling, so 4 children, 5 children could already live in this property. So we're not proposing here the use that the number of children would increase, double, etc., from what already could be in this local area. So I don't want to continue, sorry, going over it, but that's my only concern, that if that is, obviously it's just something members need to consider, is that existing, and it could already be 4 or 5 children plus less, who knows, in this property. So that's just something to consider. Thank you.
Thank you, Gemma. Councillor Elwyn, I think you indicated.
Diolch yn fawr, Cadeirydd. Diolch am y cyfle i gyfrannu. Thank you to all the speakers this morning and for your valuable contributions. There are a number of things that I want to pursue, 3 specific ones. I do actually know the Kai Hopkin. It might surprise you, being at the other end of the county. But I am a bit surprised with the comments from Highways in relation to this. I think they tend to focus on the parking spaces on the actual site of the development itself, rather than the wider context and accessibility to the site. It is a narrow road. It has been noted that it is full of parked cars, a lack of potential walking space and things, which is actually very important in terms of Welsh Government current thinking and safe routes, etc. and without a doubt will increase the number of vehicle movements. I would say it's more than what is quoted previously as compared to residential. So that is one issue. I think the comments of the police, as has already been noted by colleagues, is another matter of concern and something we should take on board seriously. And I think there's another third wider issue I want to flag up is it's obvious today the strong feelings within the community about this proposal. And as speakers for and against the development said, that there was a very heated public meeting at some stage. My experience in not just planning but other developments is, and advice I would give to developers of any such proposal, is try to work with the community you want that proposal to be part of. Because if you can't develop a project which carries the bulk of that community with you, you're doomed to failure later on, and that relationship will never get any better. And I would think it would have been wise perhaps to invest more time and resources in working with the community on that relationship, or we wouldn't be where we are today. It is not good enough to say you will do it after you get planning permission. I do think personally, as was alluded to previously, that deferment should be considered on those factors. And if that, either that or the developer withdraws the application while they do actually work and enhance the relationship with the community to bring back proposals which perhaps are better reflective of local needs and considerations. I'll leave it at that.
Diolch. Councillor Elwyn. Councillor Peter, you're next to indicate.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Gemma, and thank you for the report that's been put in front of us. I have some concerns because you're sort of stating 1 minute about private dwelling and then it's actually a business that is totally different in its usage. So can we put the picture back up of the parking, please? Yeah. Just to sort of, first of all, is there a gated area on the property, and will that be electronic or will it be manual? Okay, well, I'm just concerned that if it was gated and the service industry is coming in there delivering, it is going to take a bit of time to take it off the road. So that will make a sort of more of a blockage on the road itself. So that's my one concern.
Can I comment? Sorry, just so I don't forget as we come back, if that's all right. If that is a concern, that is something that we could easily condition as part of any consent if we were to go that way, that any gates have to be set back a suitable distance from that highway boundary. So that is something that could be conditioned.
Yeah, so that then takes it a little bit further towards the parking spaces. That's what I'm trying to get to. So then the other point I want to bring up is that local services, there isn't really adequate local services serving that area, like buses and stuff. So is there a provision then for a minibus or a people carrier for the actual business to take up one parking space already? And then you've got service industry coming in as well. And I think it was Zach said that staffing throughout Wales will be used as well as training. But if that's the case, you've got people coming from Bilth, I think he stated, and Drindod and Raider. They're all in different locations. So that's more vehicles that are going to be put in that area. And I'm just wondering, is there enough space for turning and service industry to actually deliver?
Could I ask Alistair, I think Alistair from Highways is online with us this afternoon. Are you there, Alistair?
Yes, hello, Chair.
Are you able to address the concerns of Councillor Peter James?
Yeah, I might have to call on Nicola as well. She's with us because it was sort of she dealt initially with the application, but certainly, I mean, looking at it, yes, yeah, they've got 7 spaces. I think the standard requires 6. Looking at the site layout, you know, they've got room to play with in terms of service vehicles as well. So I think, you know, they've got adequate space to get vehicles off the road and the parking. Yes, you know, I've heard concerns about staffing changeover times, you know, and yeah, that's always going to be a situation with any car parking where you do sort of have to vacate the space before the next occupant can occupy it. But you know, we're already sort of often sort of criticised for asking for too many spaces, but the reality is if we were to cover that off as well, we'd be asking for sort of 12 spaces rather than the 6. So I think, you know, that's something you've got to work with, and it happens everywhere. So I think, you know, the assessment that we've made, we're content that they've got enough room within the curtilage of the site to deal with the parking and the service requirements.
Just one other point then, with the garage then, is that entrance being blocked with them parking spaces? And is that
Yes.
going to be changed in usage or not?
Nicola may correct me, but I don't think we've counted the garage space as car parking. So the car parking that they have is additional to the garage space. And I think I've read somewhere in the documents that the garage space is effectively going to be used more as a store for things like bicycles rather than parking vehicles. So we've excluded it from the parking calculation.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Peter. Councillor Gareth, is that a legacy hand? No. Please.
Just to come back on the first point Peter made about the lock gate or the gates, Mr. Williams, the second Mr. Williams who spoke, actually stated there's going to be an open door policy. So I assume from that there won't be any gates at the facility. So the children, so there won't be any barriers to cars going in and out of the site. The point I wanted to make though, and which I should have made the first time, we've had it said that there are 35 children placed in residential accommodation by Powys. Some of those will be for specific needs with learning difficulties, physical needs, etc. We also had it stated that this area, not so this area, is around about 14,000 people. So that's about 10% of the Powys population, which would give you a need from this area of 5 places. So if you double that, gives you 10. And at the start, we were told that in the existing homes, 6 homes within a 5 kilometre radius, if you said each of those have only got 2 spaces, that gives you 12. So I would say there's an adequate need assessment of children home spaces in this area already.
Thank you, Councillor Gareth. I don't see any other hands up. We seem to be, the general consensus I get is that there isn't enough information surrounding this on a number of issues, but I've not had a firm proposal. So I'm not pushing for that. I'm just, councillors, I'm in your hands. Councillor Elwyn.
Well, I'm ready to go for deferment because, you know, there is a question about overdevelopment, but perhaps that's a separate issue. But I'm more than happy to propose that go for deferment.
Come back, Chair. Is there anyone willing to second that before I? Yes, Councillor Gareth. So yes, we've got that now as a proposal. So I'm happy for you to
just from reference to the planning protocol deferral. Must be the reasons must be clearly articulated for a deferral. So I think we have had reasons, but I need to hear them. Okay.
Councillor Hugh. Councillor Hugh, can you put your mic on, please?
If the section 17 is relevant, and I quote it again, and it is material, it is the duty of the authority to exercise its various functions with due regard to the likely effect on crime and disorder and the need to do all it can to prevent crime and disorder. If that is a material concern, I would like to propose that we reject the officer's proposal. And I ask the planning officer.
Peter?
I've had a quick look at Planning Policy Wales. There's a brief section around what's called community safety, paragraph 3.11. I'll read it. Local authorities are under a legal obligation to consider the need to prevent and reduce crime and disorder in all decisions that they take. Crime prevention and fear of crime are social considerations to which regard should be given preparation of development plans and taking planning decisions. The aim should be to produce safe environments that do not compromise on design quality in accordance with the cohesive community's well-being goal. So it is there. I think what we have seen now is a proposal around mitigation through the management strategy. So it's definitely a material planning consideration. It's whether you think that consideration's been met sufficiently or not through that management scheme.
Well, Chair, I'd like to test the committee, to be honest with you, that I would propose, with that material concern mentioned there as the reason, I'd like to test, I propose that we reject the application for that reason.
Thank you, Councillor Hugh. We've had that proposal. Is there anyone willing to second that before I go back to the initial proposal?
I need to advise again.
Yeah.
I always have to advise in these circumstances whether I think the reason would be a good one or not, because it may be challenged at appeal. I think one of my concerns, and I'll raise it as a concern, is we haven't got evidence around what crime and disorder might occur from this development. So I'll leave it there probably. Okay.
Thank you, Peter. I don't see any other hands up. I've not had Councillor Hughes' proposal seconded. Councillor Gareth Pugh.
Yeah, going off the subject a little bit and going back to highways that we have a lot of respect and regard for. I see that they say 6 spaces is enough if this was a house. Fair comment. And you've provided 7. But I'm not happy with really the 7 because there will be staff changeovers. So are they going to experience trouble out on the road when some turn up 10 minutes early and the other ones haven't left? I'm concerned about that. And the open gate or the setting back of that gate, I think if there is a gate and it needs setting back, that needs demonstrating from let's have a drawing to show that it can be achieved. Because when the minibus comes, again, you don't want to be blocking the road. These are separate to what you've just been discussing. I appreciate that, but I just don't want to brush over highways without giving it full concern, because this is no longer a residential house that needs 6 spaces. This is going to need, as stated, for a business like this, 12 spaces. So I do have concerns over that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gareth. Councillor Gemma. Councillor Gemma, that's the second time.
Have to
Gemma,
different names.
please.
Just to clarify, Councillor Pugh, on that, if this was a residential and say this is a new house residential coming to us, we could only secure a maximum of 3 parking spaces for a dwelling of this size in line with those CSS parking standards. So the 6 or the 7, as we're talking about, as officers have quoted, that is in line with the proposed use, not a residential use. So I just wanted to clarify that.
Sorry, could we just go back and ask Alistair to confirm that? Because where did I hear 12 spaces, not 6?
Councillor Alistair, that you, Councillor, what's wrong today? Alistair, are you there, please, to clarify the question from Councillor Pugh?
Yeah, certainly. Yeah, I may have confused matters with the 12. So Gemma is right in what she says, that the maximum that we would condition for an equivalent dwelling on that site would be 3. The 6 comes from the assessment of under CSSW parking standards. What I was trying to allude to was that if we were to double up on spaces to allow for changeover of staff, then we would, we'd be asking for 12. In reality, we don't ask for 12. We expect the business to manage the changeover. So yes, you are reliant on somebody moving out and somebody moving in. you would hope that that wouldn't lead to sort of overflow onto the road outside, but obviously you can't guarantee it. People will do whatever they want with the best will in the world.
Well, whilst we got Alistair on, Chair, can I just ask him what setback would you want from the pavement then, if that was going to be a secured gate?
Probably 5.5 meters.
Is that enough for a minibus?
Yeah, I mean, as I look at it, with these things, it shouldn't be there for long, should it? I'm presuming that if they did have a gate, it would be quick to open it.
I'm going to draw that to a close now. I think we're talking a little bit now about ifs, whys, whats, and that the information is not before us. I think that's come from all conversations so far. So I am going to draw that to a close, Councillor Pugh. I've got 3 other hands up now. Councillor Tom was first, and then Councillor Jonathan Wilkinson. Councillor Tom, please.
Thank you, Chair. First thing was actually the parking space. If you look at the Google Maps, there's plenty of space in the site. I do understand people's concerns about crime and their fears about the unknown, but Dyfed-Powys police seem to be quite content with that, and that's just my comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Tom. Councillor Jonathan.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, just to try and draw a line under the car parking debate. I think the applicant in his presentation mentioned that there was adequate space on site and they could make that space suitable for parking by installing some sort of plastic matrix or whatever to park on. It was really going back to a point that one of the members of the public brought up, and that was the already in their words, disproportionate level of provision for care in their area. I think within a 5-kilometre radius was mentioned. A number of care homes in a relatively small geographical area, and the argument that the community is already more than doing its bit, if you like, to provide for care in that geographical area. Is that something we can consider, that the community is already doing its bit, and actually it's unfair to ask it to do any more?
Who would like to take that question?
I just got the policy open in the local development plan, policy H3. So it talks about housing and delivery. It says that housing development is written very generally, this. So to read it again, housing development proposals must be of an appropriate scale and shall, and I think the key thing here, provide a suitable mix of housing types to meet the range of identified local housing needs. Okay. I think the difficulty we've got is not having that precise evidence, as other members have discussed here, of need and where the children might be coming from, whether we have other homes locally that might be occupied from children out of county and so on. We just don't know that information. So it's very much supportive policy. Where we've got evidence of need, we'll try and accommodate the needs of Powys residents, as you'd expect the policy to do. Okay, but we haven't got the precise evidence.
Councillor Jonathan, you can. I believe the only hands I got up are legacy hands, Councillor Hugh and Councillor Jonathan. Members, I'm totally in your hands. We've had a proposer and a seconder for deferment. We've had a proposer to go against officer recommendation, which has not been seconded. So is it your wish we go to the vote on deferment, and then we would have to then come up with valid reasons to take that forward? What's your wish?
But there is a proposal, isn't it? Yeah. So I suggest the committee goes to vote on that deferment, and then we need to confirm, as has been indicated, there are reasons we can justify that, and we ensure that it goes down in black and white.
Are you all happy that we go along that road? So Carol, can I ask you to put something in the chat box for the voting form, please? Yeah. It's there now, 4.2 in your chat box. 4.224/0820/FUL defer. I'll come to Councillor Elwyn, who hasn't got his laptop for a verbal vote. Give everyone a couple of minutes. Carol. How are you looking, Carol?
Yep, okay, there's 14 members eligible to vote. I've had 13 responses through the system. So Councillor Elwyn?
For the motion.
For deferment. So Chair, that's 14 members voted, 11 for deferment, 2 against and 1 abstention.
Thank you. Thank you, Carol. So it has been carried that we will defer this application. We now need to come up with valid reasons for the deferment. So who is going to word these for us? Go on, Councillor Elwyn.
You're so kind. Well, the issues that I've raised, I think Councillor Gareth alluded to them previously. I think that the issues about, I have issues about highways and access to the site, okay? I must confess it's not a site I would have chosen, but that's another story. So that's the one issue about not just the parking on site, it's the road from the main road trunk route to the actual location itself. There is a question, I think, and valid one, about overdevelopment in terms of the number of homes that already exist in the area, pour out into the community. And coming back to policy H3, there's the question there. You saw the wording you said, Peter, was scale and mix of a provision. Well, you could be argued that that mix already exists. So that's the one thing, and perhaps is it the appropriate scale? And there's no doubting in the wider Powys there isn't demand for such facilities, but do they all have to be congested in one small geographical area? I think is a legitimate question.
Thank you, Councillor Elwyn. Councillor Gareth, you also raised something in relation to the school authority.
Yeah, very similar to Councillor Owens. I think we need some comments and issues from both the education service and the social services around this proposal, and how they'd actually deliver their service. Well, from social services, is there a need for an additional home in this area? I think we also need to know the types of additional learning needs, special needs, etc., that the other owners are dealing with that's within the area. And I think that's available in care standards. If not, I would expect our social services colleagues to add that detail. But it's that general, too many homes within a particular area, and I particularly think it's most likely serving the needs of other authorities rather than Powys.
Yeah, I think the education side of things we're probably finding harder to how we evidence that.
Even it's just a comment from Anne as head of service to say, that the needs could be accommodated. That's that.
Okay, so it's lack of consultation.
It's lack
I've heard
of
is
full information. There's reference to a 73-page document from community. I may be wrong, but I don't think we've had sight of that as members. I've had a look. I can't find it on the documentation on the portal. There's also reference on the documentation about a previous application that was refused. Again, I've looked. I can't find it. Maybe my lack of ability to deal with the Powys planning portal.
So withdrawn.
And it's just it was a certificate.
There was a certificate, which is referred to, but that wouldn't be online.
Yeah, which is probably saying it needs planning permission.
Yeah, that's what it's saying.
Something else that been really highlighted this morning is the lack of consultation with the community. And that is something that's been evident by all the speakers here today, and indeed by the letter from Jane Dodds that came forward. And this will give an opportunity to work with the community prior to the decision being made. And I think that will be beneficial for the Fairways as a company moving forward, in whichever way this decision goes. Happy with that?
Yeah, we've got reasons from the committee, so I'm happy with that. We've got further consultations, further evidence required. It wouldn't be a planning issue, the engagement with the local community. That's very much for the company and the local community. Okay, thank you.
Good. Right, members, I believe that has concluded this. Can I thank everyone here from the community who've come to make representation today? It's a credit to you, as Councillor Hughes already said, the way you handled yourself. We're often critical in this planning committee about the way speakers address us, and they don't address planning policy, but you have been exceptional this morning in the way you have done that, and it's a credit to the way you've worked together. I also thank the applicants as well for the way they've handled themselves as well. People are not always, there's always going to be losers and winners. Hopefully we'll work out the solution that'll work for everyone. But I'd like to thank you all for the way you've conducted yourself this morning. It's very much appreciated. Diolch yn fawr iawn i chi gyd. Right, what's your wish? Are we happy to move on to the next one? It's 12:30. Yes, so during 2 minutes comfort break, everyone's asking when members leave the chamber, and then we'll crack on with the item 4.3 prior to
Thank you, members. I think we're all back in the room, so we need to do a roll call again. If you could, Cal, please.
Thank you, Chair. So Councillor Gareth D. Jones has declared an interest in this application, so has moved out of the chamber. Councillor Adrian Jones.
Present.
Councillor Tom Colbert.
Present.
Councillor Deb Edwards.
Present.
Councillor Peter James.
Present.
Councillor Ed Jones.
Present.
Councillor Gareth E. Jones.
Present.
Councillor Karina Kenyon Wade. Councillor Carl Lewis.
Present.
Councillor Jeff Morgan.
Present.
Councillor Gareth Pugh.
Present.
Councillor Elwyn Vaughan. Councillor Jonathan Wilkinson.
Present.
And Councillor Hugh Williams. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Cal. Right, members, we move on to item 4.3, which is erection of rural enterprise dwelling 24/0585/full. We have two speakers, or three actually. We've got the local member Graham Breeze, and we've got Richard Corbett, the agent, and Gary Wright, the applicant. And our officer is a senior officer, Kate Bowen. So do we move straight on to your brief outline? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair, and good afternoon, councillors and members of the public. So I'm just going to briefly show you where the site is before the public speaking. The application site is located in the open countryside, approximately 1.5 kilometres from the centre of Welshpool. Oh. Apologies, I'll just share my screen.
Come on.
Apologies, members. Kate is trying to share her screen of her presentation.
Thank you. Apologies for that. So the application site is located in the open countryside, approximately 1.5 kilometres from the centre of Welshpool. It is for the application is for the erection of a rural enterprise dwelling and double garage, installation of a sewage treatment plant, access and all associated works. The application site is currently pasture land surrounded by agricultural land and scattered dwellings. The existing forestry building and yard is shown on the slide. It's approximately 80 metres to the south of the site. The dwelling is proposed in connection with the business operating from the building, DG Forestry Limited. This slide is the location plan and it shows the site edged in red. This slide just shows the existing site. Access is shown off the C2045 highway with the access track shown. This slide shows the proposed site plan, so the proposed layout with a dwelling, garage, garden, parking and turning area. And I'll pause there to allow for the public speakers. Thank you.
Thank you, Kate. Could I call upon Graham Breeze, the local member, to make his statements? And I believe you have 5 minutes. Is that right, Carl? Thank you, Graham.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak today in support of this application, which is in my Welshpool Llanelli ward. I have been the representative on this ward for just over 8 years and have never before felt the need to call in an application for consideration by the Planning Committee. So hopefully you can see from that fact just how strongly I am asking you as a committee to support the application before you today. The applicant runs DG Forestry, a highly successful company providing forestry services throughout the UK and houses extremely expensive equipment in purpose-built accommodation on site at Valley View. The company employs local people and on top of a very successful wood chipping business, works in Powys and areas across the country to reclaim land for agricultural use, improve arable fields, clear forests after harvesting woods, prepare soil for replanting, create and maintain gravel roads, and very importantly, reacts to on a 24/7 basis to maintain power and communication lines following storm damage. I hope that paints a clear picture of why the applicant feels the need to live in such close proximity to the business headquarters, which I'm sure you will understand are twofold. He needs the ability to be able to respond immediately in emergency situations and also needs to ensure the security of the company's fleet of extremely costly vehicles. One example of a client dependent on DG Forestry being able to respond immediately are Chirk-based Kronospan, a key client of the applicant who operates an around-the-clock business as a leading manufacturer of worktops. The applicants act as their emergency service and every minute counts. To me, this is a classic example of when a local business owner needs to live on site. As a local authority, we are committed to encouraging rural business, supporting the Powys economy and helping retain young and ambitious people within the county. I also suggest it is abundantly clear that there is an absolute functional reason for the applicant to live in a rural enterprise dwelling on the spot. It is my opinion that there's a clear argument that this application meets the TAN6 need for conclusive evidence of the need for a rural enterprise property with the functional need relating to a specific management activity or a combination of activities which require the presence of a worker at most times. The applicant also struggles to secure insurance for the valuable equipment if the headquarters does not have a staff member on site. This application has been in the planning stage for some time now, and the applicant has responded positively to every single request for change and assurance from Powys County Council's planning department, no matter how big or small. The applicant is happy to comply with any of the advisory notes contained in the recommendations and responses. So it is disappointing to see today's officer recommendation for refusal. It's also worth noting that planning permission is already in place for both agricultural and forestry use on site. I've spoken to local residents and heard nothing but support for the application, and Welshpool Town Council has voiced its full backing, so I'm happy that there are no local concerns. So in closing, I would just like to ask the committee to look favourably upon this application before you today. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Graham. Now I call upon Mr. Richard Corbett and Mr. Gary Wright to make their statements, please. Thank you. And again, you have 5 minutes. Is that right, Cal?
In terms of the design and visual impact of a proposed development. There are also no issues in terms of highways, ecology, impact upon neighbours and the impact on the nearby listed building. The main issue to be considered relates to whether or not the existing rural enterprise at the site has a functional need for a full-time worker to reside at the premises. Permission was granted for an additional forestry building recently, as well as the formalisation of a change of use of a building for the use that it's currently used for. The business is a long-established, highly successful local enterprise run by a local person from the application site. It is a major player in the Welsh forestry sector and beyond, and provides a vital role in emergency situations for a range of clients, both local and further afield. As has been included within the officer's report, paragraphs 4.6, 4.7 of the TAN 6 practice guidance for rural enterprise dwellings lists examples of circumstances which might give rise to an essential functional need for a readily available worker. One such example listed is where the delivery of specialist services is required outside normal hours and where timeliness of response is important. Kronospan operate from a site at Chirk. We're a major employer in a major situation and are a key client of the applicant's rural enterprise. They have provided a letter of support of this in the planning application, which reads, in the event of an unforeseen breakdown emergency at Chirk that renders our fixed plant inoperable, I require DG Forestry to mobilise their mobile chippers and to be on site at Chirk within 30 minutes, as we are a 24/7, 365-day operation. This requirement endures all year round. It is clear the applicant provides time-critical response for the business at Kronospan, and it is noted that wood chipping is required to enable a Kronospan facility to produce sufficient electricity on site to meet its needs. Out of hours call-outs are a common occurrence from Kronospan, and the provision of a dwelling on the applicant's business would greatly help to reduce unnecessary delays in responding to out-of-hours call-outs from Kronospan and the applicant's other key clients. In light of paragraphs 4.6 and 4.7, it is our opinion it is clear that the enterprise concerns does have a functional need for an on-site worker in order to protect and enhance the future viability and profitability of the enterprise and to allow it to grow further. And other points from within the committee before I let Gary speak is, with regards to the garage, we are prepared to amend this if you could possibly support our application. This has not been brought up as a concern prior to the report. We do, however, believe the garage is in scale with the house, which is accepted by the planning officer. And with regards to the agricultural land classification, sorry, Kate, but we did send you an email with justification on the 6th of September. The site is all grade 3 and above, and we believe we have chosen the most suitable site when you take into account all factors considered as per policy. It's under 1/4 of an acre. We've picked the site that does equate to less visual harm, and we believe that it is policy compliant. Gary?
DG Forestry is a flourishing company which we established in 2016 by myself and a colleague, David Roberts. As the company began to grow rapidly a couple of years ago, me and my business partner realised that we needed to purchase a larger premises. As we expanded the yard and more contracts have come in, it has made me realise the importance of someone living on site. One reason for this is to ensure all the machines are safe and secure. When all the machines are on the yard, it could be estimated about £6.5 million worth. Another reason for having someone on the premises is that on the occasions we have a customer call in, could be at all times of the night, to say that they have a problem with their static chipper in Chirk, namely Kronospan. We have to respond instantly. So by living on site, this can fulfil the contract more efficiently. I do the majority of the invoicing, and therefore I need to spend a large amount of time in the office, which is at Valley View. I also operate the machinery myself, so again, this would save me a lot of time living on site. DG Forestry could be located outside of Powys, but I lived in and around Welshpool all my life, and I do not want to relocate away from family and friends within Powys. We also put a large amount of money into local businesses within Powys, from fuel to vehicle parts and to the accountants in Welshpool. All maintenance is done locally, which as we have grown, the maintenance company has grown too. He is now employing more local mechanics. We also as a company are employing more local people, all from within Powys. In the next 5 years, we predicted a big expansion in the company with more chippers and more employees in the plan. Welshpool is an excellent location for the company to be based. We have many customers within Wales, and we are central to the north, east and south of the UK, which enable us to mobile chippers very quickly. I hope you consider my application carefully, as living, working and employing people in Powys is very important to me. Thank you.
As you can see, the applicant is a local person who has set up a successful local rural enterprise. However, in order to be able to fully commit to the site and the enterprise's future growth in the locality, he needs the ability to live on the site and oversee his business growth. A key objective and vision of a Powys LDP is that rural businesses will be given the support they need to grow and boost overall economic development within the economy. The LDP states, Powys rural areas will be a working countryside of sustainable communities supported by a thriving, diverse rural economy of small businesses. If this is to be achieved, it's crucial that local business people are supported and given the opportunity to help develop their businesses. The applicant's intention that with future growth of a rural enterprise being run from Valley View, additional local people will be given highly skilled and well-paid jobs. Thank you very much.
Thank you both for those comments. We now move back to our planning officer, Kate Bowen. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll just take you through the rest of the considerations and the recommendation following the public speakers. So yeah, obviously, as you've heard, it's a proposed rural enterprise dwelling. The dwelling would have an approximate floor space of 115 square metres, which complies with the Affordable Housing SPG. The slide shows that there would be adequate parking and garden area provided. It's proposed to connect into a new sewage treatment plant. Some additional planting is proposed in the form of trees, and the existing roadside hedgerow is shown in green. This is the elevations of the proposed dwelling. It would be a two-storey dwelling house with stone lower walls with timber above under a slated roof. The dwelling would be set into the land. The design is considered appropriate to its setting. These are the floor plans, and as mentioned previously, it's considered to be an appropriate size in consideration of the guidelines within the Affordable Housing SPG. This slide shows the garage proposed. As the agent pointed out, it would be, according to our calculations, it would have a floor space of higher than that contained in the Affordable Housing SPG. The Affordable Housing SPG recommends a 15 square metre floor space. We could receive amended plans to reduce that floor space. Obviously, that would be up to members whether or not they would feel that a garage the size of that would take it out of the affordable bracket for the proposed occupiers. This slide shows that the existing access is proposed to be improved as part of the development. The same improvements were approved as part of the consent for the change of use of the agricultural building for the forestry business. So it's just a mirror image of that, really, just to tie it all in, that those improvements would be secured as part of this consent as well. That consent and this consent also proposed, this permission also application also proposed a passing bay along the C2045 highway. However, the Highway Authority have advised the location of that passing bay is not suitable due to ownership issues and there being a telegraph pole. However, the Highway Authority have confirmed that another suitable location for a passing bay can be found, along the highway. This is a constraints map of the site. Obviously, you can see there's quite limited constraints to the site. The yellow is showing the Class 3 highway, the C2045. Just to pick up the agent's point in terms of the loss of agricultural land, it's graded as 3A, best and most versatile land. As it's a recommendation of refusal, we have included that as a reason, because the loss of that land is not considered to be justified, because we don't consider that there's a functional need for the dwelling. So we have included that. However, it is recognised that it is essentially a relatively small area of agricultural land that would be lost for the proposal. So that will be up to members, to debate that and consider whether they consider that loss justified. This slide shows the site. I was standing at the access point taking a photograph of the site. The building, the subject of the change of use, can be just seen in the left-hand side of the photo. The neighbouring dwelling, Mount View, is shown on the right of the photograph, but across the highway and the roadside hedge. This slide just shows the access looking southwest. Access is on the left, and this slide just shows the access from the other direction. So the key issues in this application are the principle of whether a dwelling at this location, the open countryside, is justified in consideration of national planning policy. So Planning Policy Wales and Technical Advice Note 6 and the associated practice guidance advise that new dwellings are only allowed to support rural enterprises where there is a clearly established functional need. GG Forestry Limited is a forestry business, as we've heard from the speakers, specialising in mobile wood chipping. That includes 24/7 hour, 365 days emergency support for businesses and for power supply and power plants and heat plants. It includes maintenance and distribution of large forestry machinery to local agricultural holdings, also maintenance of machinery on site, and also including forestry management, road maintenance, afforestation, etc. So the committee needs to consider, does the business require the ready presence of a worker and most times for the proper functioning of the business? Can the proper functioning be achieved by other means? Examples of functional need for readily available workers include livestock welfare, or where the delivery of specialist services is required outside of normal working hours and the timeliness of response is important. The submission and the speakers have put forward that site security is also important. The building, what we've noted from the submission is the building does not currently is secured by doors, so that could be a way, obviously, increasing security at the site, and it's not clear if sophisticated alarm systems have been investigated at the site. In terms of emergency response, it's appreciated that is an emergency response, but it's not considered that a dwelling on the site would necessarily reduce the response time sufficiently to warrant a dwelling. The essential functional need has not been demonstrated in our opinion. In terms of other matters, the financial information clearly shows a healthy business which is able to afford the dwelling. In terms of other matters, also the site is located quite close to Welshpool and Gilsfield. We consider there's a reasonable amount of properties available locally in the nearby settlements to meet the need. In conclusion, the recommendation is one of refusal this afternoon, as outlined in the committee report. Thank you.
Thank you, Kate. So members, it's over to you. Hands up. Who wants to speak, please? Yes, Councillor Elwyn.
Yeah, well, thank you.
Oh, yeah, you haven't got your hands up.
Thank you for the presentation. I feel there's an element of deja vu with this application to a certain extent. But what I would like to focus on, first of all, is that Hafren and Dyfrdwy have no issues with the application. The PC ecologist has no issues. Highways has no issues. Environmental protection has no objection. The enterprise qualifies as a rural enterprise, which I think is quite fundamentally important. In relation to the time test, it is accepted that it's expected to meet the requirements and it satisfies the financial tests. So the vast bulk of issues are satisfied. It is only the functional need. And I think in terms of functional need, it's interesting comment in the report says, not wholly convinced that the enterprise could not be accommodated within existing industrial estate and locality. Well, I think I'm right in saying, well, it has got planning anyway, and I would argue the case anyway there in the current LDP, there was no land available to designate of expansion of industrial enterprises in Welshpool, and that is one reason why developers, I'm thinking of other projects also, are going out of the area. Insurance has been noted as an issue, and I can well understand that. We only have to look at the Powys County Times and other media regularly to see the number of thefts from rural enterprises and farms in the Llanford Ceredigion, Welshpool, Castle Ceredigion, etc. area as reported by Dyfed Police. And that is because of the ease of accessibility to major motorways and trunk roads into the Midlands of England, etc. So it is important, I would argue, to have a presence on site as a deterrent, if nothing else. And I think also, to me, there's a wider principle. I'm opposed to planning approach and policy, and be it local Powys policy or Welsh Government, which thinks that everything has to be centralised in towns and larger conurbations. I want to see vibrant, energetic rural communities. And as the farming sector changes and farms merge more and more, unless we're careful, all we will have is one big farm in individual valleys and all the houses being sold off to retirees from elsewhere, and no children or no vibrancy at all in those communities. And yes, I know this site is near a Welshpool, but I think we should be supporting such a growth business, which obviously is rooted in the community and is obviously rooted in the wider rural enterprises. And that is why I will be recommending to support, to refuse your recommendation, and to support the proposal. And I am not fussed about the garage part. Diolch yn fawr.
Thank you, Councillor Elwyn, for those points. Next is Councillor Jonathan Wilkinson.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Kate, for your presentation, and also to the applicants as well for their comments. I concur with pretty much everything that Councillor Vaughan has said, so I will try not to repeat myself, but just to emphasise one or two things that I think are worthy of emphasis. Powys is open for business, and I think there couldn't be a better example of a rural business, the like of which we're trying to attract to Powys. And a prime example of one serving the renewables industry, providing wood chip for renewables, and the wider forestry industry beyond that. So I think that we're to be commended in encouraging that at the very least. But I think the need for a dwelling on site, I think, has been made very well by Councillor Vaughan. I think the issue of security, the value of machinery and equipment on that site, and the value of somebody being present on that site, I think is certainly there. I think just seeing a light on in a house and knowing that there's somebody there is a deterrent in itself. I think that the idea that we could have a faster response time if somebody's on site to receive goods and parts for machinery if somebody's on site, I think, you know, somebody's living down the road, it's quite a different thing. Even if it's only 2-3 miles down the road, I think to have to sort of answer a phone, you know, quickly go there, perhaps late at night, I think to have somebody on site, you know, the benefits of that, I think, can't be emphasised enough. There were some comments from Highways. I know, well, we've got huge machinery on site anyway, so the idea that domestic traffic is going to add to that is frankly laughable, really. I mean, it's the scale of the machinery that's there already is tiny in comparison to the sort of domestic traffic that would add to that. Agricultural land loss was mentioned. And I think the officer, Kate, I think you acknowledged that were we minded to approve this, it's a pretty, in the scheme of things, pretty small area of land. And I think when we look at what Welsh Government are proposing in this sustainable farming scheme, there are huge areas of productive land that we could see taken out of agricultural use for tree plantings, purely to take a box. I think this pales into insignificance compared to the sort of land loss that we're going to see for this development. I am happy to second Councillor Vaughan's proposal that we reject Officer's recommendation and approve this application, with the proviso that the garage as originally stated on the scale is also, we go back to the original scale of the garage rather than the reduced size. But I see no need for reducing that other than, well, I just see no need to reduce that. So I'm happy to second the recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Jonathan. I don't think Elwyn actually proposed it. He said he was minded to. So we'll come back to that in a minute. We'll just have the speakers and we'll come back round. Yeah, I know, I was absolutely got that, but we'll just do it. So, Councillor Karina, please.
Hello, I'd like to argue in the opposite direction. This development is only 1.5 miles from Welshpool. Other dwellings, suitable dwellings, have been found in Welshpool that would satisfy this housing need. It suggested it would take 6 minutes to drive here, I don't know, 10 minutes. The 24/7 support that the forestry people are supposed to perform are 30 minutes to Chirk. I don't know if you could really get to Chirk in 30 minutes. And the other place is in Kent, so that's doesn't seem feasible. I looked at the technical advice note 6 for rural enterprise dwelling, and point 6.4 says that in forestry enterprises, dwelling isn't necessarily permitted. So I'm minded to go along with the officer's recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you, Karina. Next is Councillor Jeff Morgan.
Hi, yeah. I think you pretty much all know what I'm going to say now. It's pretty much all been said before. I think I'd like to support that this gets through. As for the loss of the land, like Jonathan said before, when they're going to plant 10%, I mean, Kate's done a job 100%. She's done a job, but it's up to us now. And if you move him into a town, the guy's going to be up at 3 o'clock in the morning. He's moving heavy machinery. He's going to have complaints there. So I'm willing to propose that we reject the recommendation and go ahead and pass it. And with the garage, as Jonathan said.
Thank you, Councillor Jeff. Next is Councillor Gareth E. Jones.
Yes, thank you, Joe. I want to, could the officer go back to the site plan? I just want to check on something. Yeah, that's one. The fence line to the southwest, am I right in saying that's already a permanent fence line? Because that's what it looks like from Google Maps to my mind.
I believe so.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. So the site we're actually looking at is less than an acre, most likely, or the fence line to that on the track. I accept it.
0.1 hectares.
That
is the site area. Yeah, so the site area is shown red on there.
So yeah, it may be grade 3A land, but as is a permanent fence, I don't think it's only going to be used for grazing rather than he's not going to be able to take a crop off it. So I would be supporting Elwyn's recommendation that we support the application.
Thank you, Councillor Gareth. I think we're getting into consensus here, really, in a way. Could I ask next Councillor Ed Jones, please?
Thank you for the presentation. I actually think this is a benefit to the area. You've already got the heavy traffic and you're on about putting a passing place in. As a local, if I was travelling this road, I think that was a benefit. So having it on site, you're taking a car off the road to start with, travelling in the middle of the night if necessary, fully in support. I think it should never even be in this meeting.
Thank you, Councillor Ed. Now, Peter, when we ask for proposals, we need to have some reasons, don't we?
Yeah. Should I come back in, Chair?
Yes, please.
Yeah, so I've listened to members. Just in terms of when we determine planning applications, we've got to determine them in line with planning policy. Okay, it's not whether we like something or think necessarily it's a good thing. We might dislike something, so we have to always determine in line with policy. Policy here is Welsh Government policy generally. There are planning policies, but when we come to dwellings in the open countryside or all enterprise dwellings, it is Welsh Government policy that we look to. So I think the functional tests that set out in TAN 6 is about those exceptional reasons to be on site. So if members were minded to permit this, they need to be sure and satisfied that that reason is there. When it comes to agricultural land, the policy again is set very much at the national level by Welsh Government in Planning Policy Wales. Where there is overriding need, it does say you can allow development. Okay, so that's written into Planning Policy Wales, so you have to again be satisfied that you think there's an overriding need. If I swap back to TAN 6, the tests are there in order. You have to clear that first bar first with functional need. If you're convinced and satisfied there's a functional need there, then it goes on to the second and third and fourth tests. Okay, so I think when it comes to if you're minded to go contrary or recommend contrary, again, you have to identify and articulate the planning reasons for that view before you vote. Okay, so I'm hoping I've given you something maybe within what I've just said. Okay, but again, I'm not going to put words in your mouth.
Thank you, Peter. I think you've got is this a new hand, is it, Gareth? Would you like to speak now then, please?
Yeah, sorry, the one other point I meant to say early on, my understanding is there is a demand, will be a demand for new housing within the new emerging LDP for the Welsh Pool area. And personally, I think if we allowed this, approve this application, that is helping to support that provision. I fully accept there may be accommodation available. Whether it's affordable in line with what it would cost to actually develop this property is, I would say, questionable.
We're still within the plan period of our current LDP, so that's there already. I think what we have to determine is in line with policy again about dwellings in the open countryside. So you have to be satisfied as a rural enterprise dwelling, is there this functional need there? Okay, that's the first bar and the main bar that you need to clear.
Thank you, Peter, again. Jeff, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, I'd just like to say is that does it for me. He's proved that it's a functional need as far as I'm concerned to live on site. That's my opinion, right? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Carl Lewis.
Thank you, Chair. I think in technical advice note 6, correct me if I'm wrong, Kate, there's a part in there about specialist services and out of hours working hours. And I would say that on this application, that has been demonstrated and the need has been met. Obviously, they subcontract to Kronospan in Chirk. I believe they have a multi-million-pound turnover there. So I would have thought that with that in mind, that would meet the functional test of a specialist service outside normal working hours.
Thank you, Carl, for your knowledge. It's very useful. Peter, if somebody wants to propose now, do they have to list the reasons, or are we going to accept that members think the functional needs have been met?
Yeah, I think they need to provide, members need to provide that reason.
When they propose.
Yeah, when they propose. If they are minded as well, I would be suggesting maybe that they delegate conditions without preempting the decision to chair, sorry, the chair can't do it, so it would be vice chair and myself. Okay.
So you all heard that. So would somebody like to propose?
Well,
And
I will formally reiterate what I said previously and propose formally that we accept education. And based on that, the exceptional need has been met. And the reasons I would say is, it's not every day of the week we get a business with multi-million-pound assets and fixtures and fittings there, and insurance and practical business management is a relevant issue, and especially the 24/7 coverage. There's not many businesses that could say that, and especially in light of, and I come back to the current and frequent reports from Dyfed Powys Police about thefts from rural enterprises in that area. And also I would say this type of business is a growth sector for the future, and therefore from an economic development perspective is quite an exceptional. Is that sufficient for you?
absolutely spot on, Councillor Elwyn. I knew you'd do it proud. Who would like to second, please?
I will, Chair.
Oh, of course you did. Sorry, Jonathan.
Sorry, Chair, I thought I already had. I'd just like clarification about Peter's comment about being prepared to delegate the conditions. I'd already stated I'd like to see the original footprint of the garage retained. Does that mean, as a planning committee, I wouldn't be able to do that?
Yeah, you need to be clear as a committee if that's your intention.
That would be my intention, yeah.
Yeah, so assuming that fits with Councillor Elwyn's proposal, you'd be voting to retain garage originally as proposed.
Yeah. Thank you, Peter.
Thank you, Councillor Jonathan. So in that case, we move to a vote. And we'll be voting for the proposal, which is to go against officer's recommendation. Sometimes it gets a little bit confusing, upside down. So we'll have it in the chat box soon, will we, Carol?
Chair, we're voting for
Sorry.
we're voting for the proposal here from the floor.
That's right, we're voting for
So
the
if you agree with it, it's for. If you're against the proposal as it's been put from the floor.
We're voting, if we vote for, we are going against officer's recommendation.
Yes. Yes.
Let me be clear. Right. There we are, members. It's just popped up on the screen, 4.3, voting form.
At the moment, Chair, I've only got 11 responses.
Councillor Elwyn
Yeah, it
Vaughan
would be
needs to
12.
vote.
And so there's one member that hasn't. The one member that, because there's 13 members eligible to vote. I've had 11 responses.
Right.
So with Councillor Elwyn,
Yeah.
that would be 12.
Would you be able to check that mine has gone in?
Right,
Because I did
okay.
have a problem and I Voted at the second time, the box
Star.
didn't disappear.
Yeah, yours hasn't come through. Would you like to give it verbally?
Four.
Sorry,
4.
4. Okay, just.
Owen,
4.
thank you,
You're
both.
4. So,
Carol?
so that would be correct, yes. So, hold on. Okay, so 13 members eligible to vote. 4 going against officer's recommendation. 12 members. 1 against and no abstentions.
Thank you, Carol. So we have gone against the officer's recommendation to, and we will approve the application for the, from Mr. Gary, right.
And to delegate, delegate conditions to yourself as vice chair with myself as professional lead.
And to delegate the conditions. Thank you very much. So is that it for that one? Thank you all very much. And ask the chair to come back in, please. Would members like to take a break for lunch until 2 o'clock? Would that be? Okay, so we'll meet back in half an hour at 2 o'clock. Thank you very much.
So if members can ensure that all their microphones are off in the chamber and also at home, because the webcast will continue, but I will stop recording.
Yeah.
So, Councillor Gareth D. Jones. Councillor Adrian Jones.
Present.
Councillor Tom Colbert.
Present.
Councillor Deb Edwards.
Present.
Councillor Peter James.
Present.
Councillor Ed Jones.
Present.
Councillor Gareth E. Jones.
Come up.
Councillor Karina Kenyon Wade. Councillor Carl Lewis.
Present.
Councillor Jeff Morgan. He's showing on my list as being in the meeting, so I'll come back to him. Councillor Gareth Pugh.
Present.
Councillor Elwyn Vaughan.
Matt.
Councillor Jonathan Wilkinson.
Present.
Councillor Hugh Williams.
Matt.
So Councillor Gareth Morgan. Jeff Morgan.
Yeah, are you with us?
As I say, he's showing on my system that he's in the meeting.
Can I just, before we move on, thank Councillor Adrian Jones for chairing the last item. Very much. Moving on, 4.4 before us this afternoon, 23/015.
Chair, sorry, we can't hear you at home.
Hear me now?
You were very faint.
Councillor Carl, can you hear me? It's Carol speaking.
Yeah, I can hear you, Carol.
Okay,
very
hold
clear.
on. Councillor Carl, can you hear me now?
Yes, yes, I can hear you, Carol. Yes.
Yeah, okay, chair's going to have to move his seat because the chair's The chair's microphone's not working.
No problem.
Okay, is that better, councillor Carl? I can hear myself now. Councillor Carl, can you hear me?
Yes, Chair. Yeah, we can hear you.
Thank you very much. Right, moving on, 4.4, 23/0156/FUL, Unit A, Vastra Industrial Estate. Taking us through this is Kate Bowen. Over to you, please, Kate.
Thank you, Chair. Unfortunately, with this application, something has arisen during the meeting whereby we are going to be recommending that we defer the consideration of this application, unfortunately. That is because we consider that inappropriate or public consultation in the lead up to the committee in terms of the committee procedures has been carried out. So we are recommending deferral of the application until the next available committee, which is scheduled for the 31st of October.
Thank you, Kate. Members, anyone wishing to comment? Councillor Elwyn, please.
I move on that basis the officer's recommendation. Yeah.
I will second.
Seconded by councillor Hugh. Thank you. Can I have by a show of hands, please, if everyone is in favour of that? Yes, in the committee. Everybody, virtual hands. I think councillor Carl, are you happy?
Yes, Chair. I just put my hand up first to move it. But Mr. Elwyn has done it. So,
So with that, it has been proposed and seconded and unanimous that we will defer this application to the 31st of October.
Yeah.
Can I also, before you leave, can I sincerely apologise to the members of the public who are here that this has happened? We know your time is precious, and for that we do apologise. And you have my assurance that we'll be back at the 31st when we will consider it then. So thank you all for your attendance and again apologies. We'll just give members a couple of, councillor Adrian now is leaving as he has declared an interest in this final item. I'll wait for a couple of members of the public to leave. Are you at the back? Are you planning on staying for the rest of this meeting? Are you? Yeah, no. You're more than welcome to. Thank you. Can we please check, Carol, councillor Jeff, as you requested?
Yeah, councillor Jeff Morgan, are you now in the meeting?
Yes, yeah.
That's lovely. Thank you very much.
Lovely. Good, right. Moving on to 4.5 before us this afternoon. 24/0865/FUL, the Cottage Inn, Borden Road, Montgomery. This has been taken by Rhian, so Rhian, please, over to you.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, members. So as the Chair has kind of just said, this is an application for 3 residential units at this car park within the Cottage Inn in Montgomery. Since the writing of the report for this application, we have received an additional public representation that raises concerns with the connection to the foul sewer of main sewer for these 3 houses. So the site is within the settlement of Montgomery, approximately shown with the red circle on this aerial photo. The site is on the western side of the B4388 towards the north of the settlement. So this photo shows the site in more detail. The site is currently all laid to hard standing as part of the car park for the former Cottage Inn. Residential properties are found to the north, east and south, with the former inn to the west, which this committee has previously granted consent for conversion to a residential dwelling. I will now pass back to the chair, who will introduce the first of our speakers.
Diolch, thank you, Rhian. Yeah, we have 2 speakers in relation to this application. County Councillor Jeremy Thorpe, and also Gareth Davis, the agent. So if I could invite Councillor Thorpe to come up, please, and remind you that you have 5 minutes in which to speak, and the time starts when you're comfortable.
Thank you very much, Chair.
You just put the light on as well. Thank you.
Okay. Right. I wish to object to this application on the grounds that the application has not complied with the Welfare of Future Generation Act 2015. Under this Act, all public bodies in Wales, including local authorities, have a legal duty to act in a manner which seeks to ensure that the needs of the present are met without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. Public bodies are required by law to make sure that when making decisions, that they take into account the impact these decisions could have on people living their lives in Wales in the future. I believe that this application and the previous application on this site in 2023 failed to address this need by removing from Montgomery a community facility which provided a public meeting place that, until it was purchased by the present owner in September 2021, was a thriving pub. The site is located in the bottom of Montgomery, which has quite dense housing. There are only 2 other venues in the town that serve drinks, both about 500 metres away, close to the square. There are no other venues that serve drinks in this lower end of town. Contrary to the statement made by the planning officer at the planning committee meeting in February 2023, the venue had not been vacant for 2 years. It was serving pints to locals up to the week when it was sold in September 2021. This can be verified by a conversation with ex-regulars and staff, and I invite anyone here to come to Montgomery and talk to residents that were drinking at the cottage right up to the moment it was bought by the applicant. In the new version of the LDP currently being drafted, there are new housing sites at the bottom of town near to the cottage that will swell the population there. You can be sure that none of these development sites will have any community facilities. They will be just housing, because developers will argue that they cannot afford to build things like pubs because they do not attract the high sale prices of housing. So, in this half of town, Montgomery will be just houses, nowhere in the future for residents to meet and share drinks. This is precisely what the Future Generation Act is trying to protect against, to ensure that our towns do not become hollowed out dormitories. Why is this relevant to the current application? This application is further embedding this contravention of the Future Generation Act. Further developments of this site should be conditional on substitute community facilities being built on alternative sites when the new housing is developed. It also needs to be the case that the Future Generations Act is a compulsory part of all application assessments, because, as I mentioned earlier, and I repeat, it is now the law in Wales for all decisions by public bodies to have to demonstrate that these decisions are not compromising the needs of future generations. We are failing to do this for this application. I also intend to suggest that this is brought as a topic of the Council's scrutiny programme, that our processes are changed and that we start complying with this Future Generations Act by ensuring that all reports have a requirement to clearly address the impact of any proposals made in the terms of the Act, and this is clearly set out in the reports.
Thank you, Councillor Thorpe. Mr. Davis, you also have 5 minutes. I think the light's on ready, whenever you're ready.
Diolch Cadeirydd, pnawn da Pwyllgor. I'm here today speaking on behalf of the applicant in relation to the erection of 3 residential units and associated works at the former Cottage Inn in Montgomery. As you've heard previously, there was an application that the committee approved for the conversion of the Cottage Inn to a dwelling, and that was approved, and its existing use is residential, and therefore the comments made about the loss of community facility and things has been judged already. So today we are looking at a erection of 3 residential units in the development boundary of Montgomery. In relation to this case, it was applied for last year and we withdrew the application because the Town Council raised a few concerns regarding design and layout of the proposal, and so did the Built Heritage Officer of Powys. So we subsequently resubmitted the application with the change of design to be a bit more traditional and in keeping with the town. And we're glad to say that the Town Council had no objections to this application when they saw the layout. As you can see from the Planning Officer's report, we've covered all matter of considerations in planning terms, in terms of built heritage, highways, neighbour amenity, schedule ancient monuments, ecology, and all of that. In terms of foul drainage, it's got a main sewer connection because that served the previous public house. And as you can see, there's a condition on the approval to say full details of the surface water and the foul drainage will be submitted prior to commencement anyway. So, but there is mains connection within the site already. So I've got nothing else to say apart from, you know, conclude with the recommendation that the Planning Officer has proposed in front of you, and I hope you go with the Planning Officer with that. Thank you.
Diolch yn fawr i chi, Mr Davies, thank you very much. Members, that concludes our speakers, so we are now going to go hand back to Rhian to take us through her report and to her recommendation, please.
Thank you, Chair. So this is the proposed block plan for the development. The 3 dwellings are proposed as a terraced to the eastern side of the former inn, maintaining a building line with the existing building. Car parking for the dwellings will be to the north of the properties as indicated on the plan. So these are the proposed elevations of the development, which will see a terrace of 3, each with 3 bedrooms. The terrace is 2-storey with 2 chimneys upon a hipped roof and Juliet balconies on the front. As the planning agent touched upon just within his presentation now, this is a resubmitted application, so this has seen design changes and the Built Heritage Officer is now happy with them. So the site, which is roughly marked with the red star on this slide, is on the western side of the scheduled ancient monument, which is marked by the purple hatching. Cadw have been consulted and have confirmed that they have no objection to this development. The site is also within the Montgomery Conservation Area, which is coloured blue on this plan. As mentioned, the Built Heritage Officer has no objection in light of the amended design details which have been submitted with this application, subject to requested conditions to be included upon any granting of consent, which are included within the recommended conditions of the report in front of you today. So this photo is taken looking to the right upon entering the site. The former Cottage Inn can be seen, which would sit to the right-hand side of the proposed dwellings. This photo is taken further into the site with the development site on the left, roughly where that car is parked. The garage building in front of the car is proposed to be demolished, which is subject to a separate application for conservation area consent. So this photo is taken on towards the east of the site, looking back towards the site entrance on the western side. So this would be roughly on the corner of the terrace. And then this final photo is looking towards the south of the site, which shows the garage building in front of the blue car and the neighbouring property beyond that. This is the side elevation of that neighbouring property, which can be seen to have no windows upon the first floor, so there's no privacy concerns. Where the garage building is located is also where the gardens for the 3 properties would sort of run in that direction. I will now pass back to the chair.
Thank you very much. Right, members, over to you. I'm looking for someone wishing to start the debate off. Can't see any hands. Councillor Elwyn Vaughan.
Just a question. I see the Community Council observations, and obviously they don't have an issue, but they do request that the assurance that they are residential use, not holiday lets. Do we have that assurance?
The application before us is for 3 residential dwellings, so that's what we've got to consider.
Yeah, Councillor Vaughan. Everyone arall, Councillor Tom, please, and then Councillor Gareth E. Jones. Councillor Tom. We can't hear you, Councillor Tom. You must be on mute.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yes, I don't know if anybody can answer this, but is there any possibility that this will again be a pub and available to the local community? I would like to hope so, but is that actually a possibility?
This application is for 3 houses, so we can't consider previous decisions made or any speculate about any future development.
Okay, yeah.
Please, Councillor Tom, come back if you wish.
Well, as I said, I didn't think it would be very easy for anyone to answer that, but so it looks like there's no answer. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Gareth Jones.
Yeah, thank you. Can I just follow on from Councillor Elwyn's question? So this is an application for a residential property. If they wanted to use it as holiday lets, they'd have to come for change of use. Am I correct in that?
There are some permitted development rights introduced by Welsh Government in 2022. I believe that would be PD. Yeah, it would be permitted development if they wanted to do that at a later date, but as mentioned, the application is for 3 residential dwellings.
So could we put a condition on to say that they'd have to come back for planning permission?
We could remove permitted development rights for that permitted development class if the committee was so minded.
Can I ask a follow-up question to Councillor Jeremy's statement? Can I just ask if any officers know, was there any objections to the plan application to change the pub from a pub to residential property in 2022?
I don't think we'd be allowed to discuss that because currently all we're looking at is the application.
That's fine.
In front of us, Gareth. That's what I believe.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did we want to develop the condition anymore, or where was that left?
But when we come to the time, I would be proposing we put a condition on such as that.
Councillor Jonathan and then Councillor Gareth Hugh, I believe.
Thank you very much, Chair. Thank you, Rian, for your presentation. Yeah, I listened with interest to the presentation from the local member, and particularly the comments about the loss of the local pub. We nearly had that in my ward, and it's regrettable wherever that happens, and we all want to keep our local pubs very much thriving, but this isn't to discuss that. That has been dealt with, and I think we do need to be careful as a planning committee to separate that entirely from what we're dealing with here, and that is the residential property application we have. I've listened to previous comments, and I don't have any further questions, but I'm happy from what I've heard to propose that we accept officer's recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Jonathan. Councillor Gareth Pugh and then Councillor Elwyn Vaughan, please.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I'll go along with Jonathan. He beat me to it on that. Obviously, we're not here to discuss anything about the previous application that was a pub. And whether it will be in the future, it's got totally irrelevant to the three houses. So looking at the application in front of us, yeah, fully supported. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gareth. Councillor Elwyn?
Diolch yn fawr. Well, yes, to reiterate what previous speakers have said, but I would like to add the condition of permitted development rights in terms to holiday lets. We do want them to be residential, not a loophole for other uses in the future. That's what I would say.
Yeah, the easiest way of doing that is probably putting a condition on to say it's for C3 use, which is residential dwellings only. That matches the description of development as well. Yeah.
Can I check with the proposer and the second that they are
Yes,
happy
Chair,
with
I'd be
that?
happy with that. Yeah.
Yeah. Councillor Pugh, are you happy with that?
Well, if you want to do that, do it. But it's not that long ago we were all told to support tourism and that sort of thing in Mid Wales. So not really happy with it. But if you want to go along with it, I will.
Thank you, Councillor Pugh. Councillor Carl, please, you have your hand up. Councillor Carl, there you go.
Sorry, couldn't get unmuted then. Sorry, Chair. Yeah, just wanted to know how sound that condition is, Peter. Could that be challenged to have that removed by the applicant?
They could have, of course, challenged to remove that as a condition. We'd have to consider that on its own merits then against the relevant policies. So it is possible. We're sort of in between times and eras here with use classes for holiday lets, short-term lets, and so on. The authority hasn't reached a decision around where it goes on the policy side there. Not for this meeting, but that's where we are at the moment. It's possible to put that on there. So we are restricting it really to what the description of development says it is. That's what's been applied for. So I haven't got a big issue with it. If they're dissatisfied with that, they'd have to come back and look to remove it.
Okay, I thought I'd bring it up. Thank you, Peter. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Carl. I think that concludes the hands up. Unless anybody else indicates to me, I think we're happy to go to the vote. And just for clarity, we're going to go with that condition that was proposed by Councillor Jonathan and Councillor Pugh. Reluctantly, you were happy to go with a second in that proposal. I think I'm right in saying that. Yeah, thank you. So Carol, can you go to the vote, please? I think we have 13 councillors currently with us. There you go, 4.5.